Afternoon, everyone. Getting a wee bit of feedback here. All right now. Okay, thank you. Just to welcome you all to the special planning committee here in the Guildhall this afternoon. It's quite unusual for us to have two planning committees in the 1 month, but the desire here is to try and get through quite a significant number of applications that are for consideration, because the council will be going into what we call PERDA very, very shortly, and subsequently that would mean that there will not be another planning committee until after the election on the 18th of May. That stands for all committees of council, of course, not simply just the planning committee. So we have quite a number of applications to work through. Can I just in the first instance actually thank the staff team, the council officers who have worked so very diligently to present these applications to us today. It's been quite a challenge, as I understand it, but here we are today, and we're thankful for that. So, Maura, if you could extend that to your team on our behalf as elected representatives. So, just to welcome again our elected representatives who are here in the chamber physically, and quite a number who are online, and of course those who are going to present to us today. As well, so members of the public, agents, applicants, there will be objectors, we all know that as well, and you're all very, very welcome. So, without further ado, I am going to pass over to the Head of Planning, Maura Fox, and ask Maura to take us through the first two items on the agenda, which are the notice and summons of the meeting and the members' attendance and apologies. Maura.
Thank you, Chair. Members, you're hereby summoned to attend the special meeting of the Planning Committee, which will be a hybrid socially distanced meeting to be conducted remotely via WebEx and also physically in the Guildhall in Derry on Monday, the 27th of March. Alderman Alan Breslin.
Here, Maura.
Thank you, Alan. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
Online, Maura.
Thank you. Alderman Drew Thompson.
Online, Maura.
Thank you. Councillor Jason Barr.
Here, Maura.
Thanks. Councillor Raymond Barr. Apologies. Councillor John Boyle.
Yep.
Councillor Angela Dobbins.
Here, Maura, online.
Thanks, Angela. Councillor Paul Gallagher.
And Shaw, Maura.
Thank you, Paul. Councillor Christopher Jackson.
And Shaw, Maura.
Thank you. Councillor Dan Kelly.
And Shaw, Maura.
Thank you. Councillor Patricia Logue.
And Shaw, Maura.
Thanks, Patricia. Councillor Kieran Maguire. Thank you. Councillor Philip McKinney. Councillor McKinney. No. And Councillor Sean Mooney. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Maura. Okay, on to item number 3 in the agenda, the usual housekeeping, and I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. This webcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. If you are seated in the lower public seating or media areas, it is possible that the recording cameras will capture your image. And this will result in the possibility that your image will become part of our broadcast. This may infringe your human and data protection rights, and if you wish to avoid this, then you can, of course, move to the upper public gallery just above us here. And a copy of our protocol can be found on the Derry City and Strabane District Council website. Councillor McKinney has now joined us as well, Maurice. So, to move to item number 4, are there any declarations of interest in relation to the business of today's meeting, members? Those of you in the chamber, of course, you can verbalise it here, or indeed anyone online. And if there are no declarations of interest at this point, then we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Of course, you're free if you do feel throughout the course of the meeting that you may well feel there's a necessity for a declaration of interest, as you all know, then you can make that at any time throughout the meeting. Okay, so just on the chairperson's business, members, and there really isn't any chairperson's business. It's not something I tend to do with the planning committee. However, you'll all be very cognizant of the fact that there are a significant number of late items that were submitted to you over the last number of days. Would probably fill a small volume. And as you know as well, normally we would deal with late items at the very top of the meeting, but because of the volume of those late items and in the interests of expediting the meeting, then I am proposing that we would take those late items item by item as we address the as we address the Can I just ask anybody? I should have reminded everyone. Anyway, can I ask everybody who's online to have their microphones turned off, also to have your cameras turned off until such a time as you're invited to speak. Otherwise, we will have an awful lot of cross broadcasting going on. So, members, what we'll be doing is we'll be taking the late items at each application, because as I said, there's a lot of it. Okay, so without further ado, members, pass over to Maura Fox. Maura's got a wee list of things written down here, so I'll afford you the opportunity to tell everybody what you've got written down, Maura.
Thank you, Chair. Members, I need to update you on a number of items on the agenda. Item number 18 was listed on the schedule, but just to be aware that you would have had notification on Friday that a report didn't follow through with that particular case. The reason for that is we were hoping to get that on the schedule because of potential funding issues there with that particular application, but unfortunately a consultee, DERA NED, didn't respond on time, and then when they did respond they have sought further information, so it's not a case as a result of that we can actually deal with today, because the applicant, which is the council, needs to supply further information to NED in order to release that, but we were trying our best to get that push forward in order to progress matters, but unfortunately that's where we were with that. So that was item 18, so that's not going to be heard today. Item number 5, members, which is the application on Lawrence Hill. That application has been completely withdrawn from the planning system, so it's not only been removed from the schedule today, but it's been removed from the planning system, so it's no longer a live current planning application. Item number 3 in Artie Garvin, we had further information which you'll see in your pack as a late item from the agent requesting further time in order to deal with environmental health consultation. Now, we did carry out the site visit, as many members would be aware, but on the basis of the further request for further time, the Chair and I discussed it, and we felt we would give attention, but again, it's a matter for members, you know, to bring this back to the next available meeting, which would be June. Moving on then to item 10. We've had recent information again supplied by the agent in regard to this case, and also letters which you will have been able to consider in your pack. You would have received that information, but it's the latest letter that we received that also incorporated information that the officers had not received before, and as a result of that we need to consult with wastewater water management unit, and once we have done that we will return the application to the next available meeting. So that's all the items, Chair, that I wanted to address the committee on as by way of update. Thank you.
Thanks, Maura. Members, as you'll be aware, then obviously that counts for 4 of the applications that were in the initial pack that we won't be dealing with either today or tomorrow. Members, just bearing in mind, of course, the number of applications that we still have to work our way through. Can I encourage everybody to, as much as possible, keep remarks short and possibly sweet if you can too. That would be good. And I'm just going to move us through the running order now. Okay, so members, the running order for today, and as I said, I expect we'll probably be back tomorrow, will be numbers 1, 2, 4, 6, 7, 11, 12, 13, 16, 17, 8, 9, 14, and 15 in that order. And as I said, there are also a number of speakers who will be addressing the committee today.
Excuse me, Chair. Can you repeat that again, please?
Kenny, sorry?
Can you repeat that list again, please?
You want that run through
Please,
again?
yeah.
Okay.
It's an age thing, John.
Yeah.
It's an age thing.
Okay. All right. I know the feeling, Philip. So it's numbers 1, 2, 4, 6, 7, 11, 12, 13, 16, 17, 8, 9, 14, and 15. Okay, Philip? Yep. Thank you. Okay. So with that in mind, I think we can move on to the first item on the agenda today, which is LA 11 2021 0375F. And Suzanne, sorry. Oh, sorry. Apologies for. Apologies, somebody just gave me a fright there. But there are no minutes, so there will be no matters arising. So there you go. Okay, so we're going to move to item number 1, application number 1, sorry, and that's LA 11 2021 0375 /F. And Suzanne, I think. And there are late items in relation to this. Folks, there's an awful lot of late items. So I'm going to get a wee bit confused every now and again by the looks of it. So there are late items in relation to this. And so I think we'll take an initial 5 minutes to work through those late items. And then if we need a wee bit more time on that, then I'm sure we can do that too. So if you want to refer to the late items in relation to this application, and then we'll come back to it in 5 minutes' time. And thanks for keeping me right on that, Maura. Thank you. Okay, members, that was a relatively short lead item. I hope everybody's had the chance to read through it. I don't think it should take 5 minutes to do that. If anybody does want any extra time, let me know.
Just 1 second, members. My slideshow is not. Oh, here we go. Nope. No. Yeah, just bear with me a minute to just speak to James.
Apologies, folks. Just a slight technical issue here we're trying to sort out, so bear with us.
Thanks. Okay. Apologies, members. So the map and the overhead satellite just shows you the site. Sorry, the location map's just not very clear on that one there. The red line. So the site is an existing access on the Somerville Road. And you can see the red arrows pointing down. Currently accesses existing tourism or holiday chalets as well. And the application is before you today. Members will recall it was previously presented back in May 2022 and then deferred for a site visit. And the site visit has taken place, and there were some ongoing discussions with the agent with regards negotiating. And apologies, members, this is not changing for you, anybody in the chamber. It's changing on the screens at home. I'll have to get James to share the presentation. So members, whilst James is just sharing the presentation, I will just go over the policy context, which is listed in your reports. And also you will be aware that there were quite a few objections on this application received from more than 5 individual objectors. We've had a total of 23 letters to date, and there are 2 letters of support. Also in your report, you'll see the consideration of some of the issues. And I suppose the fundamental issue that you'll see coming out of the report that has changed really is the volume and the speed of the traffic that was evident at the site visit. So on the day of the site visit, it was a morning visit. There was quite a higher volume of traffic than would be expected on the road, and also the speed was in excess of 28 miles an hour, and that is the speed members that Road Service had calculated was the average speed. And when there is a lowish average speed as per that figure, it would give officers sort of a consideration that possibly a reduced visibility splay could be applied. And that, members, you will recall, was the recommendation at the last planning committee, was that a reduced splay could be applied given the low traffic speed of the road. However, on the day of the site visit, that was not the case. And following discussions after that with the agent, we did receive a couple of, I think there was 2 further objections as well. The officer team were concerned that really that would, in order for us to apply the reduced bracket figures in terms of visibility displays, we would need it backed up by a traffic survey or some evidential context that would illustrate if that site visit or, you know, there was a sort of a one-off situation in terms of traffic at that time on the road. That has not been forthcoming, and so on the basis of that, members, James, do you just want to move on to the next slide, please? Yeah, so the policy and the next one again. And that's just a summary of the objections, members, and those haven't changed. And the next slide will just summarise as well some supporting points that were put forward as well, obviously, in terms of users of the tourism business who'd used the site. The next slide sets the policy context in more detail, which is what I was saying to you about the AMP2 as the policy. Then we have in the amplification, you know, it does recognise it's not always practicable to comply fully with the standards, and that is obviously the position we took before. So the next slide just also summarises the issues, the fact that only 33 metres can be achieved to the east. And then moving on, the next slide, there's a drawing just showing the splay and the forward sight distance, which the agent has provided. And then the next slide, 11, actually just highlights there's no other policy issues on this case. And the final slide there, in terms of material considerations, highlights the fact that, you know, as I was saying, in terms of the excess speeds in excess of 28 miles an hour, the volume of traffic, I think those are clear material considerations that we have to give weight to and apply a precautionary approach. The later information, adjacent landowners confirming that the land's not available for display. It's not really determinant at the moment, I suppose, because we are currently, the application is to reduce the splay in any case to 33 metres. So the conclusion is to recommend refusal, members, for the reasons set out in the report. And that's a summary of the details today. Thanks.
Thank you, Suzanne. Members, and again, we have some people who want to address the committee in relation to this application. And so in the first instance, I will invite, I hope you're online, Mr. Liam Carlin, who I believe is joining us remotely. Mr. Carlin, you're very welcome. The normal protocol is that I give you, as an objector, 5 minutes to address the committee with what are clearly, obviously, your concerns. So as soon as you're ready to start, Liam, go for it. Okay.
Thank you, Chair and committee members. I'm not taking much of your time today. I'm here on behalf of my wife, 13-year-old child, and local residents. I would again reinforce we, the residents of this area, have no checks his application or previous applications, which we fully support. Residents' only concerns are solely for the safety of our children and other road users. Since the original holiday application was approved back in 2012, we have been told by the applicant that access to the public roads will be upgraded. This has never been done, and she merely kicking the can down the line, and has done for many years. Thinking this issue will go away. This is the fourth time this planning application has been scheduled for committee. It was delayed twice for late submission of plans. We would now request that the councils make a decision today, as this matter needs resolved before, God forbid, a child is hurt or killed on this road. It's only by sheer luck no accidents have occurred. We told the council and roads this is a very fast part of the road, and it's now clear from the council plan report they now agree with us. This is the Raymond application has been put down to traffic speed strips along the roads, as it would indicate traffic speeds are actually a lot faster than 28 miles per hour, and this would increase the visibility displays requirements they are trying to decrease. We have gone through planning statement 3, and it states very clearly no access will be allowed where prejudges road safely. A reduction in visible display standards should not be permitted simply because the application does not control the lands to provide the visible displays. Therefore, the question asked, what has changed? Can also confirm that just as late as 5 minutes ago, the landowner has, and it's always this land is available to the applicant. It's the applicant who does not want to go into talks with the landowner. This can be confirmed if you wish the joining later on. He can confirm this. But the land is available for display lines. The applicant does not seem to want to go in talks with him. Either sort of. Thanks very much for the chance to speak to you this afternoon.
Thank you, Liam. Stay with us. Members, has anybody got any questions for Mr. Carlin? No members with any questions for you, Liam. So if you just sit tight there. Okay. I have, on behalf of the applicant herself, I believe, is in the public gallery. So I have David McKinley on remote. David, I hope you're there. And we have Anne Spears, the applicant, who's in the chamber here. So Anne, I think you want to come and address the committee yourself. So if you'd just like to take the podium there, and again, you've got 5 minutes to address the committee. Okay. Okay. Not a way lot I can do about that right now, Anne. If you'd like to address the committee, and we'll take it from there. And again, as I said, your agent, David McKinley, is also on remote here. So there will be questions for either you or David after you've addressed the committee. So I invite you to do so now, Anne. Go ahead. Members online, I'm not sure if you can actually hear.
Here, John.
Yes.
Mrs. Spears, you can? You can? Okay. Right. Okay. You may start again and try and stand as close to that microphone as you can, if possible.
Sorry, Chair, we still can't hear nothing online.
Sorry about the gremlins today, folks. We're just sorting this out now, so bear with us. Right, we'll start again. I apologise to you for the microphone issue here, but relax on, and whenever you're ready to start, go ahead on.
Thank you, Chairman. This was approved on May 22 following a very detailed report, and we know that the only difference was that on the day of the site visit there was a very high volume of traffic, which on inspection of the CCTV afterwards, it appeared to be orchestrated as a one-off. Because the video cameras show the traffic on other days for a half-hour period of being anything from 0 to about 6. We also know that if a traffic survey were put in place, well, it's not viable because there would be an orchestration of high levels of traffic. Road Service in their letter of October 21 concluded that 2x33 is acceptable. So when we apply that criteria, that means the access is acceptable as it currently exists and has been in use since 2010. Road Service nor planning did not object to the lack of a 60-metre splay in any of the years up to 2017 or since that. I mentioned 2017, that's 5 years after the business commenced trading. The acceptability of the access as currently available in 2012 was reinforced when in July 2012 an application was passed for a 2-storey dwelling, J211-0166. No additional displays were asked for that approval. We know Somerville Road is a minor road, can only take one vehicle at a time, and Road Service had assessed the speed as 28 miles per hour. The comment about high speed is unbelievable, as people should be slowing down as they're approaching a stop sign. The traffic on Somerville, the volume of traffic is very low. The visibility to the right towards the church is excellent. The visibility to the left is acceptable as permitted in DCAN 15. DCAN 15 also considers that intensification only occurs when there is an increase in traffic of more than 5%. In my case, it's resulting in a decrease by being resident on site. For operational reasons, I also need to be on the site. This council has strongly supported my business financially and otherwise in the past, and I'm sure they don't want to see public money being wasted if now it ends up in the closure of the business. If, in the unfortunate case, if approval wasn't to be achieved, then the next stage would be to go to the Planning Appeals Commission. And if that happened, we would be claiming considerable compensation. And I know that the council's unlikely to want to pay out for another claim of compensation, especially when in the first place, much of the content of the so-called complaints that were lodged were based on untrue information. And we now have witnesses available to confirm that some of the names used were used to provide misleading and untrue information. The claim that it would be very dangerous during construction phase, totally unfounded. Construction has been completed and we're in residence. And there have not been any incidents during construction. But to me, it seems that mistakes have been made on both sides. My not understanding that a full sightline was required in 2012. Road Service not highlighting, if there was a problem, the lack of a sightline being present at any time. And thirdly, Planning Department, by accepting the current access, was totally acceptable when they gave full planning permission for a dwelling. The main objector engaged a consultant who went on to paint a very untrue, very negative picture of what goes on in the business. A very false campaign has caused me considerable stress and grief. I've been harassed, stressed, and verbally abused by the untrue allegations. And I conclude by asking that common sense prevail and that no difference should exist when I use the access to service the business or whether I use the access to go home. Thank you.
Thank you. Those could be, turn that mic off. Okay. Again, members, I'll open it up to the floor. If you have any questions for Mrs. Spears or indeed her agent, David McKinley, who's online. Alderman Kerrigan.
Thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me in. And I suppose it's a bit of a mixture. There might be questions here for David. There might be ones for Anne. And we do glad to see you out and about. I think you had been in poor health, Anne, but I'm not going to dwell on that. But I'm glad that you've been able to attend the committee today. Now, this is an awkward one. I suppose it's one that where maybe there's a few questions for the officers too. But in regards to yourself there, Anne, the only one that I can see really for yourself, how much of an impact will this have on the business if you're no longer able to, if you're not able to live on site as effectively? What's the potential impact that could happen to business? And I know as a business tourist attraction, it's something tourist attraction on our end of the council end, at the lower end, where there aren't as much. So that's just a basic question for Anne, but I might have another question for David, if that's all right.
Well, I can't see how the business could survive because if I'm not permitted to live there, and we have no other house, the house I currently live in, as you know, doesn't belong to me and is currently up for sale. So I don't know where I would be. The answer is the business would fail.
Thank you for that response, Anne. The one other very, very brief one for Anne. In regards to, you've mentioned you've CCTV cameras there, and again, it's a road safety issue. Your cameras are there out onto the road. Have you any record of, if this is a dangerous junction, effectively what we're getting at, or a dangerous entrance, have you any records on your end of things? Because you're coming up, I know there's the issues coming out of Somerville onto Bells Park, but have you any CCTV image of any incidents or any near miss or any hits or incidents there at your entrance, which seems to be the main issue in this?
We know that there have been no incidents, and also I think the so-called objectors were perhaps misled in that the junction that is very dangerous is at the end of Somerville Road onto the Bells Park Road, where, yes, my cameras have recorded accidents. And I think the agent who has mounted this campaign against us has misled some of the people that he calls local residents by the way that he gathered a little bit of information, but then has turned it round and implying that there's a major problem with road safety. Likewise, Mr. Carlin, that we've heard from, talks about his children passing or on the way to school. This is not true. The evidence on camera shows that no children pass by in the mornings. It also shows there's normally a small volume of traffic, and we have recorded traffic numbers on various days coinciding with the time of the meeting, and there's been very little traffic. On the day of the site visit, there were 3 lorries, and we know that there are never lorries on that road unless they need to go and leave off a load, but no lorry uses because it's impossible to pass if they meet something else. So we know that there's a lot of spurious information.
Thank you. Any other members? Any questions? Mr. McGuire?
You, Chair. Chair, just heard there that there has been objectors misled, and I was just wondering if they know they've been misled, would they not have corrected the record here today? The other thing, no children, you know, if I had I wouldn't let my children walk on a road that wasn't safe. You know, I would be taking them there in care. I just wouldn't be letting them walk on a road that wasn't safe. So they wouldn't be on CCTV. And the other thing, it's a question for Suzanne, but it'll come later. No, that's okay, Chair.
Yeah. I didn't actually hear a question as such, Councillor McGuire. Was there a question on that? No, there wasn't. Okay, you're okay, Anne. So tight. Any other members? Anybody else?
Here, one for the.
I'll come back. I'll come back to the officers. This is for Anne at this point, Alderman. No other questions. Okay.
Right, Chair, one for David. And
all right, okay.
representative,
Sorry,
is that all right at this
yeah,
stage?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, just very briefly, David. I imagine you're more so familiar with this DCAN 15, the vehicular access standards. According to this report here, was it acceptable under 33 metres? And what's your view on that in regards to the increase in traffic? As I say, it's stated there, if the increase in traffic is over 5%, but are we potentially then, if Anne's living on site, is that going to reduce it, or can you just shed a wee bit of light on that, David? Thank you.
Go ahead there, David.
You hear me, Chair? Yes, you can. Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Yes, there is we can reduce to 33 for exceptional circumstances, and we made a case for exceptional circumstances on that. The 33 is achievable. In fact, we actually have a forward visibility display of 50, which is centre of road to centre of road. Which in some cases is probably more important nearly than the visibility display itself. There is a complete reduction, and by living on site, won't be going in and out 10 or 12 times a day, as previously noted in our statements, numerous statements. So yes, there is a significant decrease in volume, which is also an exceptional circumstance because she's living on site. I hope that helps a little bit.
Yep, I think it does. Alderman Kerrigan.
Just very briefly, David.
Please do keep it brief.
I will be brief. David, would you have an inclination, or I've asked you, so I'll start with you, finish with you. What roughly would be the volume of traffic approximately in a week, in and out? You know, I mean, if you're saying if I'm 10 or 12 times, you know, or maybe I've missed that there. Thank you.
Yes, we put it together on a document quite a while back, and Alan would fit to fill you in on the actual people that goes in and out of the equation. I think it could be up to, if there's 4, 3, 4, 5, whatever units there's up to 10 movements per day on that. Alan would have been in and out 10 times a day of just lifting the clothes to get washed, to mowing the grass, to meeting and greeting. That'll all disappear. So strictly speaking, Anne's movements will be very negligible, other than to go to a shop and come back in again. So there's a significant decrease in the volume of traffic at that entrance.
Thank you. Okay, members, any other questions before I move on to the officer team for questions? We're moving over to the officers, or you're happy to do that? Yep. Okay. All right, members, going to go across the Councillor McGuire. Go ahead, Councillor.
The 2011-2012 approval was referenced, and it said that there was no request for sightlines of the 60 metres, but you know, it's in the report to say that there was a request for 60-metre sightline. So could that be clarified, or are we being misled, or could you just clarify that, Suzanne?
Chair, Councillor McGuire, the history files which I have put into the report, both the self-catering cottages and the dwelling had the same size bay requirements of 2.4 by 60. Okay, so when the dwelling was approved later on, road service didn't increase that splay or anything. That's what I had reported before. So the history files condition 2.4 by 60.
So that clarity. Chair, I want to make a proposal, but maybe you might have more questions.
I have another member indicating they want to ask a question, so if you want to going to hold back on the proposals for now. Councillor McKinney.
No, I'm happy enough for Councillor McGuire to carry on there.
I've still got another member who wants to ask a question. Alderman, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'll be brief again. Suzanne, I wouldn't have been content. There's no point telling you any different in regards to the site visit. I'm far from content. Now, I don't know. There seems to be a falling out between parties involved here. And to be fair, I had an errand round there another Thursday morning, and I sat down at the Prospect. Where the Prospect Road crosses Somerville Road for 25 minutes. And I know how many vehicles I seen, and I know how many vehicles we seen in our 15-minute stint, you know. So whether there was anything up to play or whatever, I can't say, but I know it's greatly reduced. I saw 2 vehicles in 25 minutes. But see, that's by the by.
Chairman Kerrigan, can I encourage you to get
get to the point? Well, to be fair, I wanted to raise that in particular, but again, currently, we're accepting, we've no issue, we've no enforcement running in regards to the current splays, even though they should have been 2.4 by 60. Currently, then they're let go. And again, as we're currently stating, Anne can come and go, and whoever's in the cottages can come and go on the current access, without any restrictions or anything put out for us, but we're not allowing her to live on the site. Is that what it boils down to?
Well, the application is to reduce the splay that was conditioned for the dwelling from 2.4 by 60 to 2 by 33. Okay, so the splays of 2.4 by 60 for the holiday cottages, that 60-metre splay has never been provided. That's, you know, a separate issue as such. So we will see what the outcome is of today as terms of enforcement or things like that. But the application today is to reduce the splay to 33 metres. Okay.
Anybody else? Councillor McKinney, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. It's really just, I'm looking at figure 4. I'm not too sure which page it is. You see the stop sign there, which would be, this is just really for Suzanne, Somerville and Bells Park. When you're coming back towards where the entrance is, for Mrs. Spears, is there? I was on the site visit. It's just, is there any signs to warn people to reduce the speed coming onto that junction? I wasn't on the site visit, Suzanne, so I don't really know.
I can't remember. Sorry, from the site visit, there is a stop sign at the end of the road, I think, but there's nothing. I can't recall anything on the day that would tell you to slow down on it. No, I mean, it's a very short stretch from the junction down to the entrance to the holiday cottages. You know, and you do have, if you're coming up from the sort of the east, you have the 55-metre forward sight distance. It's only 5 metres shorter. So the forward sight distance is, to me, is as critical, if not more critical, than the actual display, because that's the stopping distance that people have for vehicles coming in and out of the entrance. So there was nothing that I can recall, Councillor McKinney, signage-wise, but maybe another member might want to clarify that.
Okay. Do you want another question?
Yeah, just a quick. Have DFI road safety people suggested what sort of speed people should be doing coming up to that junction? Just because you talk about 28 miles an hour and stuff, you know, so I'm just wanting feedback on that.
So, Councillor McKinney, as I've put in the report, DFI Roads have advised that through their assessment of the site, that the average speed was 28 miles per hour, okay? And that speed would allow the officers to trigger an assessment of a reduced visibility display in some circumstances, okay? Each site in its own merits. The concern that officers have now is obviously the traffic on the road today. The site visit was, some of them would have been greatly in excess of 28 miles an hour. And that, to me, doesn't maybe allow as much discretion in terms of reducing the display, okay? And really, you know, what would probably, but, you know, what may help, what would have helped was sort of, you know, an impartial sort of traffic survey. But Mrs. Spears has outlined her concerns as to not putting that forward. And we don't have a traffic survey submitted on behalf of the objectors either. So we just have to make a call on what we viewed on the day and put the recommendation to you on that basis.
You, Suzanne.
Yeah, just a point of clarification. There is a wee, the red triangle sign warning you 50 yards away from the junction, just at the edge of the wee wall before you come to the junction. For just seeing it on the Google Maps thing, I knew there was something, but I couldn't remember if it was go slow on the road. But there is a sign before you come to the junction.
That's grand, Alderman. Thank you. We'll take your word for it. Google Maps, aren't they wonderful? Indeed. Okay. Any other questions for officers, members? If not, I'm going to go back to Councillor McGuire. No further questions. Thank you, Suzanne. So back to yourself, Councillor McGuire.
Chair, yeah, Chair. Based on the site visit and based on it being a rural area surrounded by mostly agriculture, coming up in next month you'll have silage, slurry, tractors coming along there with maybe 30 odd ton on the back. Some of them has 40 kilometre. That's what their 40k box and the tractors, that's what they can do. So based on that and based on road safety, I propose that we accept the officer's recommendation to refuse the application.
Okay, Councillor McGuire is proposing we accept the officer's recommendation to refuse. Is there a seconder for that proposal?
Councillor Jason Bauer, happy to second.
Councillor Jason Bauer online seconding the proposal. So members, I think you all know what was said there. So we will move directly to a vote. The proposal obviously is to accept recommendation to refuse. Maura.
Thank you, Chair. Members, this is item 1, and this is a proposal to accept the officer's recommendation. Alderman Alan Breslin.
Against?
Okay. Alderman Keith Kerrigan. Okay. Alderman Drew Thompson.
Against?
Okay. Councillor Jason Barr.
For.
Okay. Councillor Raymond Barr. His apologies. Councillor John Boyle.
For.
Okay. Councillor Angela Dobbins.
Against, Maura.
Thank you. Councillor Paul Gallagher.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Christopher Jackson. Thank you. Councillor Dan Kelly.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Patricia Logue.
For, Maura.
Thank you. Councillor Kieran Maguire. Thank you. Councillor Philip McKinney.
Abstain.
Thank you. And Councillor Sean Mooney. Thank you.
Hey, members, so that was 8 for the recommendation, 4 against the recommendation, and 1 abstention. So we're going to move on now. Can I thank all the speakers who joined us here today? Wish you well. And of course, if you're travelling, safe home. So members, moving to the next item on the agenda, which is item number 2. And again, quite a lot of late information came through in relation to this one. I'm going to ask Maura if she could just talk us through it. And then we'll probably take 10 minutes at least to have a look at that late information. Okay, Maura.
Thank you, Chair. Members, for item 2, we have a number. I'll just list them, so hopefully that will be helpful. Just to get the actual papers ready for yourselves. There was an email from Mr. James Flood on the 2nd of March 2023, and there was also an associated drawings on the 6th of March 2023. There's also a list of concerned residents that was included in your pack, and that was the 6th of March as well. There's further email and photograph from Mr. James Gallagher, and that's the 6th of March. there was an email and an objector summary report from a Mr. James Flood on the 22nd of March. And further to that, there was another further email and attachment from James Flood on the 24th of March. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 separate items, Chair, for members to consider before making a decision on this case. Thank you.
Thanks, Maura. As I said, members, there's quite a lot there to read. I think we'll take an initial 10 minutes and see how we get on. And of course, if members feel that they need a little bit more time, then we can do that too. I know that some of this lead information will have come out last week, but then some of it came out through the weekend, I believe, as well. So people have busy lives. Sometimes these things get missed. So let's take the opportunity to read through the lead information. Councillor Dobbins, are you looking to speak here? Councillor Dobbins, if you're not looking to speak, could you turn off your microphone, please? Thank you. Okay, members, 10 minutes.
Get back to me, Michael. I'm just making, I have a pencil down there, but.
Councillor Dobbins, are you trying to address the committee here? 10 minutes, folks. I know quite a lot of that information came out tail end of last week and over the weekend as well. So hopefully that has afforded you appropriate amount of time to read through the late items. I don't see anybody indicating that they want any more time, so we'll move on now. So the next application that we've just gone through the late items for is LA 11 2022 0853/F, which is a proposed attic conversion 55 Belmont Crescent. Recommendation to approve. And Malachi's going to take us through that. So Mal, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Item 2 is LA 11 2022 0853F is a full planning application for proposed attic conversion, which includes raising the roof by 2.2 metres and single-storey extension to dwelling. And the location is 55 Belmont Crescent, Derry, and the recommendation is to approve. The application has been before committee in January with a recommendation to approve. Additional information was received prior to the initiation of the decision. Subsequently, the application was scheduled to be on the 8th of March committee. However, it was deferred for a site visit, which took place on the 15th of March, as detailed in the case officer report. So the application is at 55 Belmont Crescent, which is an existing residential development off the Culmore Road, characterised by a mixture of housing types and designs. You'll see the map attached and the site outlined in red, and again an overhead map of the site, an overhead photograph showing the location of the site. So Belmont Crescent is enclosed in this area, with the area to the east would be from the Culmore Road. Here's the proposed, existing and proposed block plans. The application site is located here. This is the existing elevations and floor plans of the property, which is currently detached bungalow style property. And the proposed floor plans are shown here with the extension of ground floor to the rear of the existing attached garage. It's a single-storey extension to provide additional kitchen area, and then an attic type conversion to provide 2 bedrooms. And here is the existing floor plans and elevations with the proposed floor plans and elevations. Again, you'll see the proposed extension where the cursor is here is to the rear of the existing garage. Single story in nature. There's an addition of a doorway to a proposed utility area, and again the raising of the roof with new gable windows on each new elevation. So the site is a view of the site and its existing context. Again, the site here alongside the properties to the north, which is 53 Belmont Crescent, and we have 57 to the south of the application site. This is a view of the rear garden of the application site. And again, looking from the rear elevation of the property towards, you'll notice the 2-storey buildings in Culmore Road to the rear of the properties. So there have been a number of objections, and the objections are detailed in the case officer reports, and the case officer's considerations of the objections is also detailed in reports. In summary, there have been a number of matters raised, including impact on character of the established neighbourhood, and impact on residential amenity, including overlooking, loss of privacy, loss of natural light, overshadowing, impact on street parking, impact on the value of the properties in the area, impacts from potential downdraft from the chimneys on adjacent properties, precedent in terms of the character and erosion of the character of the area. The addition of the utility door will result in adverse impact on the neighbouring property, and some procedural issues relating to the previous presentation to committee. So the policy context is set out again as the RDS, their area plan, the SPPS, and the most relevant retained policy is the PPS 7 addendum, which deals with residential extensions and alterations. On the dairy area plan, policy BE1 considers urban design, which requires any new development proposals to make a positive contribution to the townscape and make sense to be sensitive to the character of area in terms of design, scale, and use of materials. And the SPPS sets out the criteria in terms of the amenity, the effect of amenity on adjoining properties, and when applications ought to be refused. So PPS 7 addendum, residential extensions, sets out a number of policy considerations within the policy text box, including the impact of any proposed extensions in terms of scale, mass and design and materials to be sympathetic with the built form and appearance of existing property and should not detract from the appearance and character of the surrounding area. It also asks us to consider whether a proposal would unduly affect the privacy or amenity of neighbouring residents. We also have to take into account the impact on landscape and trees, and also space requirements in terms of curtilage, parking, etc., that will remain after an extension is built. We also have to take into account the guidance that's set out in Annex A when assessing proposals against the above criteria. So in terms of overview of the application proposal, the proposal will include a site extension to provide a living room, kitchen and dining room, all open plan as well as a utility room. The increase in height of the dwelling will allow 2 additional bedrooms and 2 en-suites. The extension will increase the ground floor footprint by approximately 16 square metres. It will be the width of the existing garage and will run from the rear of the garage to the rear of the dwelling, therefore squaring off that side of the dwelling. This part of the proposal will have a flat roof to match the existing roof of the garage. The proposal also includes raising the height of the roof by 2.2 metres to allow for data conversion. Therefore, the ridge height will go from approximately 4.8 metres to 7 metres in height. The dwellings on either side are single-storey dwellings, similar in design size to the existing property. In terms of policy consideration and character, while the ridge height of his dwelling is increasing, it is officers' view that is considered to be a modest increase that will not detract from the appearance and character of the surrounding area, which is characterised by a mixture of house types and designs. The proposal will not overdevelop the site in terms of massing and plot size. In terms of residential impact, due to the separation distance, orientation and existing boundaries, it is considered extension and associated new fenestration will not unduly impact on neighbouring properties. There's no issues in terms of loss of trees and landscape features, and officers' opinion sufficient space remains within the site for parking and other recreational and domestic purposes. There have been a number of additional documents, comments and photos submitted by neighbours. You've been circulated and you have been aware of the issues that are raised in that. Officers have also considered that the matters raised in these submitted documents expand on the broader issues raised through the written objections. They do not materially alter the officer's assessment of the issues as outlined in the case officer report. In relation to the gable windows, officer advised in the case officer report that these are bedroom windows, which I suppose would be not frequently used in an urban context. They normally have first floor bedrooms overlooking, but the overlooking will be mainly on the roofs of the neighbouring properties. They'll accept that, also accept there'll be some view overlooking of the rear gardens of 53 and 57. However, it's considered, given the angles involved and the type of bedrooms involved in terms of the gable windows, that these views would not unduly impact on the amenity of the neighbouring properties. Therefore, in summary, proposal is considered acceptable as in accordance with the provisions of the area plan, the SPPS and PPS 7 addendum, policy EXT1, and the other criteria within PPS 7 for consideration. So having considered all material considerations, including the plan, policy, plan and history of the site, third-party representations, consultation responses, it is considered the proposal to is accord with policy, and therefore officers recommend approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Malachy. Okay, members. We have some speakers again to address the committee. So can I invite Mr. James Flood and Mr. James Gallagher, who are both objectors. Can I invite you to take a seat here in the main body of the chamber? And I'll give you a minute to do that. So, gentlemen, Lois, could you pull that microphone round as well? Thank you. So, gentlemen, you're very welcome. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. And of course, thanks for your patience for waiting. But believe me, there are a lot of people who will be waiting a lot longer than you guys have been waiting today. So just to welcome you, the protocol allows for 5 minutes to address the committee. That would be 5 minutes between you. And then I put that open to the floor, and members then have an opportunity, if they so wish, to address any questions to either or of you. So whenever you're ready to address the committee, I invite you to do so, and your 5 minutes starts ticking from literally the minute you speak. So there's just a button in front of the microphone. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is James Flood, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on behalf of the residents of Belmont Crescent who objected to the application. The reason have already been set out in the objectors' report, which we sent to you. Hopefully, you had a chance to study it and become better informed on the issues. We have also provided you with photographs that will illustrate the issues at hand and reflect the true likeness of the street, as some of the planners' photographs appeared to mislead. The first one actually shows a corner site, which is not there. Planning guidance clearly recommends that it's important that the roof formation can play an established part of the character of the area. Guidance points 14, 15 and 16 are especially relevant to roof extensions and should have been properly considered as they are of the report. However, even without the annex guidance, the argument against the proposal is quite clear and simple. Number 55 is set within a row of 8 low-level bungalows of uniform style and size, all with low-pitched roofs and ridge heights that complement the gentle slope of the street. It is important it is poor judgment to think that creating a 2-story property with a dominant high porch roof will not affect the established character of the road. The new roof will make the property 46% higher and stand out significantly above its peers, destroying the established roof flow. This is not a modest proposal. And again, I say this is not a modest proposal. It will have a significant impact on the character of the area and should be refused. Number 53 will suffer seriously, overlooking an invasion of privacy. A new gable window does not just look down on the roof, which the planner's report would have you believe. It also looks down into the dining room, the rear door, the patio and the garden as our report and photographs show, as well as the plan 4.3 in the planner's report. The gable will also create daily overshadowing and seasonal loss of sunlight and overbearing, causing the feeling of being hemmed in. Would you like this to happen to you? It is unfair and not very neighbourly. Number 57 will not only suffer loss of privacy of the garden and amenity space, but an even more conclusive loss of privacy in its bedrooms due to the elevated height of the gable window that overlooks the roof and down into the bedrooms. Of equal concern is the rear side door being moved 3.5 metres in the direction of the low bedroom windows of 57, which will cause real worries regarding invasion of privacy and potential for noise and light pollution at night, as this will become a principal door for the property. This is very poor practice. I would also mention that the new door could create increased risk of a fire path. The bedroom of 57 will also suffer loss of essential daylight to an unacceptable degree due to the new rise roof and gable wall blocking out the access to important daylight that it relies on. As set out in the guidelines, the bedrooms that are situated at a lower site level and almost a perfect example of how domineering occurs. Likewise, there will be a loss of light and the residents will feel hemmed in. In summary, this is the most unneighbourly development, and I believe the current application should be refused as it does not meet all the criteria necessary. Thank you.
Right. You've probably got about a minute, so go for it.
I think that's all. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I moved to Belmont Crescent about 25 years ago with my young family. I was attracted to the area because of its maturity and secondly, the nature and style of the bungalow, which is set in a row of 8 similar homes. I think to allow the application would now in essence place a 2-storey dwelling in the midst of our row. The effect of this will be to break the line of symmetry of our homes and detract from the overall appearance and layout which the original developer tried to achieve. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, you can grab that mic. Okay, gentlemen, stay where you are, just in case there's any questions for you. So members, again, open it up to the floor. Obviously, you've heard the 2 Jameses. Does anybody have any questions, either here in the chamber or online, for the gentleman who just addressed you? Okay. None indicated online here and nobody in the chamber. So, gentlemen, you can relax. Hang on. Councillor Mooney, I'm sorry, I needed to use the word on that side. So
thank you, Chair. I'd like to thank both gentlemen for coming and giving their views here today. But I had the benefit of going on the site visit earlier on this month. But I understand, I can see where you're coming from in relation to the 8 houses and the sort of the near sort of symmetry that you have there and the guard there. But I also looked when I was there. But would you agree there are different house types, in Belmont Crescent and such? It's not single bungalows. There are different house types, but sorry.
All right, gentlemen. Obviously, if you're going to, it's not a conversation between you and Councillor Mooney. It's a conversation for the benefit of.
I would agree that there are.
Go ahead.
I would agree that there are different house types within the Crescent, but I think if you on your site visit must have seen that all these are done individually. So there are no houses in between bungalows, and there are no bungalows in between houses. So there are defined areas of houses, and certainly on the left-hand side as you continue down Belmont Crescent, it is bungalows from top to bottom and no houses on that side. So yes, I agree with his point, but it was done originally in a perfect layout manner.
May I add something to that? My one. The planners, when they were assessing the site, said that there was two houses, one to the front and one to the back. The house to the front is 20 metres away. The house to the back is 25 metres away. So they don't really have any bearing on the bungalow itself. It is the sixth bungalow on a row of 8. So when coming up the street, it actually rises because of a step of 700 between my bungalow and the next bungalow. It rises 700 plus what they're recommending is 2 metres 200. And if you add that, it's 2 metres 900 of a rise that will show above. And this is just not acceptable. It'll overshadow my house.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Flood. Councillor McKinney for a question.
Yeah, I'm just looking at one of the photographs here on page 39, where I believe they're standing in the back garden of 57. 55, would you not agree 55 already overlooks you? This roof line already overlooks. 57, I'm looking at the photograph here in front of me. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Flood.
There is no window in the apex and therefore it cannot overlook. The garden that you're talking about is surrounded by high hedges and is not overlooked at all, is totally private. But when they build the new apex or the new gable, they will have a window which then will look directly into the garden. And not only that, the planner says it looks down on the roof, but because of its high elevation, it will look over the roof and down into bedrooms. So I would disagree with you.
Back in again, Councillor.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
If the plans were to, say, remove the gable end window, would you still have objections?
Yes, because it is going to break the row of 8 bungalows. It's going to stand out like a sore thumb, sticking up. The height above us is going to be unbelievable, 3 metres approximately above the bungalow beside it, and 1 metre 500 above the bungalow above it. So you can see that it doesn't just step up, it steps up and goes down again. And the height of the bungalow will cause one turbulence, which in the report it mentions downdraft in the chimneys. And this is a possibility. And if there's a gas blue and there's a downdraft, it can blow out the pilot light, which would leave the gas flowing and could cause an explosion. So the height is going to cause problems. One turbulence, it can cause structural damage.
Okay, thank you. Any other members have any questions for the two gentlemen here? Anybody online? Okay, gentlemen, just sit tight where you are for now. Okay, so members, we also have online Andy Tate, who is the agent for the applicant. So Andy, I hope you're with us.
You hear me all right, Chair?
We're hearing you loud and clear, Andy, so you know the score now. You've got 5 minutes to address the committee and then we'll throw any questions your way. Okay, Andy, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Members will be aware that this application has already been to committee, that my client, Philip Sheeran, attended. He told members that he was from the area and wishes to remain in the area and raise his family here. He also stated for him to do this, he requires renovations and extensions to his dwelling. This received a unanimous vote by members to approve the application. I am disappointed that this application is now back in front of members again, as the objectors had the same opportunity to speak and raise their concerns at the last committee but did not attend. The works to the existing dwelling, in my professional opinion, are straightforward and will not cause any issues to any neighbouring properties. The works to the ground floor are to square off the footprint of the dwelling in line with the garage. We have done this in a flat roof instead of a pitch roof, so that it would be a lot lower and not cause any light issues with neighbouring properties. The only opening on the ground floor is the utility room door. I can't see how this is causing concern to the neighbouring property, as there is already an existing kitchen door and a dining room window on this elevation, which we will be blocking up, so effectively we are reducing any potential overlooking. My client wishes to convert his attic. At present, he does not have the required headroom, so to achieve this, he has to raise the ridge height. In the proposed conversion, my client will be creating an additional 2 rooms. There will be 2 gable windows, one on each gable. These proposed windows are there because it's a requirement by building control to provide a fire rescue window from each first floor bedroom. I note the objectors keep saying that this is a 2-story extension. I want to reiterate, this is an attic conversion. It's still a single story, but just converting attic and raising the ridge. As the case officer has already stated, this is an urban area with mixture of dwellings at all different heights, and that this proposal complies with all relevant planning policies. I hope we can bring this application to a positive conclusion today so my client can get work started. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Tate. Members, again, open to the floor if anybody has any questions for Andy Tate. Councillor McKinney.
Andy, is there only any other loft conversions in the area? And could you have got away with using a dormer conversion on the roof?
Go ahead, Andy.
Well, there's a lot of mixture of different houses in there. I'm not sure about attic conversions, but there are a lot of the one across the street is a full 2-story dwelling. The dormer situation, then you're basically, if we put on a dormer, you're basically looking directly into the backyards of the properties to the rear, whereas the gable windows are looking onto the gable of the properties next door. So you would create more of a looking, I think, if you put on dormers.
Thanks, Andy. Any other questions? Mr. Tate? Anybody? Nope. Okay. All right, Andy.
Thanks very much.
I'm going to move it on here. Thanks for joining us for now. Okay, members, any questions for the officer team here in front of you in relation to this? Anybody online? Mr. Mooney.
Chair, thank you. Just one for Malachy. The objector's pack, there's an illustration at BC4. It says photograph BC4 illustration number 55. But it gives a sort of, there's a red diagram that sort of gives a sort of proposed diagram as to the way the roof would look if it was permitted today. I mean, do you agree with that, Malachy? Would that demonstration be what you would reflect would be accurate, or would it be lower? It's a red. It shows you like where the window would be. That's it there. It's just when you see it like that there, like you see a sort of example as to how it would look, afterwards. Thank you.
Yeah, no, we viewed this. Look, it's not to scale, like, no, so I can't confirm, if it's accurate or not, like, no.
Thank you, Chair.
Anybody else? Any other questions for Malachy? Anybody online? No questions for Malachy. Okay. Thanks, man. Thank you, Councillor Mooney. Okay, members. Well, I have here in front of me a recommendation. The recommendation is for an approval. So, members, that's what's in front of you here today. And the floor to hear suggestions as to how you as a committee wish to proceed in relation to this application. So, again, over to yourselves, members. There is a recommendation here for approval.
Chairman,
Alderman Breslin.
I propose we accept the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Alderman Breslin. So, Alderman Breslin, members, has proposed acceptance of the officer recommendation to approve. Obviously going to require a seconder for that particular proposal. Anybody wish to second it? Alderman Kerrigan.
I can second it.
Alderman Kerrigan seconding the proposal. Again, the proposal proposed by Alderman Bresson, seconded by Councillor Kerrigan, as for an acceptance of the officer recommendation. Members, without further ado, I am now going to put that to the vote. Maura.
Thank you, Chair. Members, this is item 2, and that's a proposal to accept the officer's recommendation. Alderman Alan Breslin.
For.
Thank you. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
Or Maura.
Thank you. Alderman Drew Thompson.
For Maura.
Thank you. Councillor Jason Barr.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Raymond Barr. Apologies. Councillor John Boyle.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Angela Dobbins. Councillor Dobbins.
I just needed to push the Councillor Dobbins.
Okay, just hold. I'll come back. Councillor Paul Gallagher.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Christopher Jackson.
Or.
Thank you. Councillor Dan Kelly. Councillor Dan Kelly. Sorry, I just missed that, Dan.
Or Maura.
Thank you. Councillor Patricia Logue.
Or.
Thank you. Councillor Ciara Maguire. Thank you. Councillor Philip McKinney. Thank you. And Councillor Sean Mooney. Thank you. Let's go back.
I just want to,
Councillor
Councillor Dobbins, are you hearing the meeting okay? I know that perhaps we had an issue earlier with your microphone. It may well be that it's muted. Or James, is Councillor Dobbins' microphone back on again? Yeah. It's on it.
Chair.
Okay, members. So, no, I couldn't be right. Okay, apologies there, members. So the result of that vote was 10-4, 2 against. So the application is now deemed approved. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us this afternoon. Wish you well with whatever it is you're going to be doing for the rest of the day. And again, thanks for taking the time. And I also thank Andy Tate for coming online. I'm not sure if Andy's still with us. But again, thank you, Andy, for your attendance. Okay. So we're moving on now, members, 24, to item number 4, which is LA 11 2020 0486/O. And don't have any late items in relation to this, so we can proceed. There are a couple of speakers as well, members. So we will move to officer's report. And Rosie, you're going to take us through this one, aren't you? So go for it, Rosie, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Item 4 is LA 11 2020 0486/O, which is an outline application for Drumahoe Junction A6 services with associated facilities, including a filling station, car wash, cafe, restaurant, shop, tourist information, toilets,
ATM, an amenity picnic area, parking for cars, caravans and motorhomes, coaches and lorries, and associated access and landscaping. There's an increase in the red line to include all land required for the provision of the proposed development access, including a new roundabout. The location is at Lismacarroll Roundabout on land 150 metres east of 4 Lismacarroll Road and south of 20 Turbracken Road, Lismacarroll. And the recommendation is to approve. Members of the applications before you this afternoon, as this development is a major development. Just by way of update, I think by the same issue, it will not change. Does that change now? Can't see yet. Apologies. By way of update, members, this application was before the committee on the 9th of June 2021 with a recommendation for refusal on roads grounds. The reasons are set out in full in the planning report, but just in summary, the application was found to be contrary to PPS 3, policy AMP2, since the proposed access was located in close proximity to a road junction where the slowing down and turning movement of vehicles entering and leaving the access would conflict with traffic movements at the junction. And since the adequate junction spacing between the proposed access and the existing junction opposite had not been provided, leading to an unacceptable level of conflicting vehicular movements. The application was deferred at that meeting by members for up to 6 months to submit the necessary information to overcome the roads issues. But the information wasn't submitted within that time frame, so officers returned the application to committee on the 2nd of March 2022, again with a recommendation to refuse for the same roads reasons. But the day before the committee, the agent submitted additional information to address the roads issues. DFI Roads have in the meantime been consulted on 4 further occasions for assessment of amended roads details. And officers are now in a position to return the application to committee for decision. So the site's located in the countryside. It's outside the settlement development limits of the city and Drumahoe, and it's at present in agricultural use. It's generally flat and gradient and rises towards the southern boundary, with boundaries defined by hedging. There's a number of dwellings to the north of the site at Gortica Road, as you can see here from the site location map, and to the west at Lismacarroll Road. And these dwellings are separated from the site by the new A6. So to the south then and the east of the application are agricultural lands. So the site's bounded here by phase 1 of the A6 and the newly constructed roundabout, which is in operation, and stage 2, which is shown here on this map, which will bypass the city effectively, won't come on stream for a period of time. So as at the minute, then traffic will come around the roundabout and continue through the city. This slide just shows the indicative proposed layout with the new roundabout as proposed. Oh, excuse me. So in terms of assessing applications for filling stations, the policy is provided by policy IC 15 of the planning strategy for rural Northern Ireland, and there's 3 main tests, which are need, vehicular access, and the location, siting, and design of the development. So in respect of need, policy IC 15 states that in normal circumstances, it's considered reasonable to expect a driver to travel at least 12 miles along the main traffic network before reaching the petrol filling or service station. And proposals for new facilities within 12 miles of existing services will therefore not normally be acceptable. So an indication of need for the facility is required by policy. The planning report sets out that the existing filling station identified in the trunk road network, comprising the A2, A5 and A6, will all converge at the city, and the location of several other facilities are also set out in the report. The policy test in respect of need for a proposed facility centres on a 12-mile separation between existing services along the main traffic network, and a number of stations have been identified as shown here on this slide and are set out within the planning report. So officers have considered the services available on the A6 at present and the distances to the proposed service station that are of a similar scale and nature. And in the supporting information provided by the applicant, the nearest services on the A6 is at Dungiven, which is 16 miles from the application site. And after this, there's the Texaco service station on the Glenshane Road at the bottom of the Glenshane Pass, which is approximately 26 miles from the application site. And then if you're travelling from Belfast towards Derry, you have the Apple Green as you're leaving Belfast, and then again nothing until the A6, the services at the bottom of the Glenshane Pass. So officers consider in respect of the distances between the service facilities on the A6, the applicant has demonstrated that there's a need for the proposed facility. Officers acknowledge that the application proposes a comprehensive new facility for both cars and HGV drivers, and officers attach weight to the argument presented by the applicant that the facilities available at the existing service stations within the city do not provide the range of facilities proposed by this application. The proposal is located to cater for the needs of road users on the region's most important key transport corridor running between the Northwest and Belfast. And there's no service facility on the A6 currently between Drumahoe and Dungiven, as the service station at Claudy was demolished, and there's no plans for it to be replaced. And there's a distinction to be drawn between petrol filling stations and service stations. The proposal is designed with all the services that long distance travellers expect in a strategic roadside service facility. So on balance, officers consider that the proposal complies with IC 15 in respect of need. In respect of retail impact, policy IC 15 states that most petrol filling stations now provide a wide range of retail goods in the associated shop, and such shops should remain secondary to the use of the petrol filling station, and proposals for larger units providing general retailing are not considered appropriate. So when the application was initially submitted, the applicant didn't provide the information indicating the allocation of the floor area in the proposed building. Again, it's an outline application, but the floor area exceeds 1,000 square metres. So, and given that it's outside the settlement development limits, officers requested the submission of an assessment of retail impact in accordance with the SPPS. And the retail assessment was submitted, and it set out in more detail the breakdown of the floor area within the building. So whilst the floor area exceeds 1,000 square metres, which is the threshold for requiring a retail impact assessment, officers are content that a full assessment of retail impact isn't required in this case, as the retail element of the proposal is limited to 245 square metres. This is considered a modest retail floor area, which would not be likely to impact on the vitality or viability of existing centres within the settlement development limits. And the remaining floor area then is given over for the provision of food, somewhere to eat and drink, and the seating areas and rest areas. So officers consider that the proposed shop element is compliant with PPS or planning strategy for rural Northern Ireland, and that it would remain secondary to the use as a petrol filling station roadside service facility. In respect of retail benefit, it's anticipated that the proposal will provide 80 construction jobs, 50 jobs when operational. It represents an investment of 7.2 million to the local area. Will provide contracts to local suppliers and rates to the council of approximately 110,000 a year. Officers have no reason to dispute these figures. In respect of traffic and access, policy AMP2 of PPS3 requires that new accesses are safe and don't inconvenience the flow of traffic. So as stated earlier, that we had previous reasons to refuse the application on roads grounds, which have now been, further detailed plans have been submitted by the applicant, and these now demonstrate a second roundabout on Turbracken Road at the junction with Gortica Road, which is shown. This is basically the site at the minute. So this is generally the area for the new second roundabout. This shows just the existing roundabout that's at Lismacarroll at the minute. And it's proposed that there'll be a realignment of Gortica Road, where it joins with the new roundabout here at Turbracken Road. And there'll be new accesses provided to the fronts of the dwellings here on Turbracken Road. So having assessed these plans, DFI Roads advise that the applicant's road consultant has carried out further assessment of the transport impact on the approach to Lismacarroll roundabout from Drumahoe Village to enable full consideration of the proposed development's transport impact, and the information provided indicates that the proposed development will have a small impact on queuing on the A6 on the western approach in the evening peak hour, but DFI Roads advises that in full consideration of the proposed development, the transport impact is considered acceptable. In terms of this proposed layout, the plans submitted are sufficient to demonstrate that an access to the site can be provided from Trebracken Road via the new roundabout. And a stage 1 road safety audit has been completed, but there are further stage 2, 3 and 4 road safety audits required when the access has been completed. So subject to conditions, DFI Roads has no further objection to the development, and officers are satisfied that safe and convenient access to the site can be achieved. There's adequate parking shown within the site. This is at outline stage, but there appears to be adequate parking provided. And this is just a slide showing the technical, more technical detail regarding the roundabout. In respect of this location, siting and design, this is an outline application, so the detail regarding the building is limited at this stage. That will be a reserved matter. But in terms of considering integration and character, as stated, the site is in the countryside. And as stated by the applicant, the service station needs to be located where, it's in proximity to the road that it serves. So that's one of the reasons why this siting was selected. The site's located as close as possible to the settlement development limits of the city. And it will attract vehicles that are using the road at present. So ground levels then rise towards in this direction to the south of the site, and that will provide a bit of a backdrop. But there's a significant new planting proposed for around the site as well, which will assist with further integration. So officers are satisfied with the location and integration of the proposed development. In respect of rural character, whilst the site is located in the countryside, the site context has markedly changed with the new A6 and taking account of the location on the outskirts of the city, adjacent to the A6 dual carriageway and the new park and ride that's located to the north. The provision of a petrol filling station would not be considered to be incongruous at this location. There was a number of other policies just that require consideration in terms of archaeology. There's a condition requiring a programme of archaeological works. In respect of natural heritage, we've considered any impact on European designated sites, and both SES and NED have been consulted. They require a final construction environmental management plan, and there's a condition in respect of that. And regarding protected or priority habitats, there is a bit of hedge removal required, but additional hedge planting is required. So NED were satisfied that there'd be no detrimental impact on priority or protected species. In terms of any environmental impacts, a car wash is proposed. So it's proposed that any effluent from that will pass through a silt separator before discharging to the foul sewer. But because of a downstream incapacity on the combined sewer and Trebracken Road, the applicant proposes to collect car wash in a sealed system for disposal off-site by a registered waste company, and NIEA Water Management Unit are content with this approach. In respect of foul sewage, the application proposes to dispose of foul sewage to the Northern Ireland sewer. However, again, due to that incapacity at the downstream direction on the Trebracken Road, the applicant proposes a temporary private sewer until the issues are resolved. And this has been considered by SES and NI Water, and there's conditions requiring that the final detail of that connection is established and agreed with the planning department prior to commencing development on the site. There was concerns regarding contaminated land, and we received a preliminary risk assessment that identified no significant pollution linkages, so no risk to the environment or to human health. In respect of flood risk, because of the increase in hard surfaced areas, we got a drainage assessment. Now, again, there's no public sewer to serve the development, so it's proposed that there'll be an on-site SUD system. and discharge to a watercourse approximately 110 metres to the north of the site. The DFI Rivers have concluded that the attenuation methods will mitigate adequately any flood risk to the proposed development or from it elsewhere, and the development won't increase the risk of flooding downstream. In terms of residential amenity, we've considered noise, odour and external lighting, and these have been considered by environmental health, and there's no concerns raised in respect of any of those. We have received 4 letters of objection, and these relate to the carrying out of the EIA determination, road safety matters, the need for this location, the need for the development in this location, noise and visual impact. These have been set out in the planning report. So if members have any concerns or want to ask any questions after the presentation, I'm happy to take any questions. And then we received 7 letters of support. Again, these set out that would be the only facility in the northwest. It would improve services for HGV drivers. It would be an invaluable resource given the distance between facilities to Belfast, Larne, Belfast Port, the economic benefits of the proposal. It's important to the city as a tourism destination. It supports motorhome users with connection points. There's key interest. The proposal will enhance road safety. The A6 is of strategic economic importance to the city. There's approximately 15,000 vehicles per day that use the main road, so the facility will complement the new road network. So in conclusion, members, whilst there's existing filling stations within 12 miles of the application site, there's no roadside services within the distance along the A6 offering the range of facilities that are proposed under this development. So officers consider that on balance, a clear indication of need has been demonstrated. In respect of location, siting and design, integration can be achieved and rural character is not adversely impacted. It has now been demonstrated that satisfactory access arrangements can be achieved, and the proposal demonstrates in respect of its impact on natural heritage, archaeology, flood risk, residential amenity and environmental considerations that it's acceptable. So approval is recommended subject to the conditions set out in the planning report. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rosie. Members, we have a few people online. Actually, we've got 2 people in the chamber. I want to address you, but in the first instance, can I welcome Mr. Dean Blackwood? Dean, I believe you're online.
I am, Chair.
Good stuff. Okay, Dean. Well, you've hopefully heard the officer report there, and I think you know the drill anyway. But you'll have 5 minutes now to address the committee, and so you can start whenever you're comfortable to go. Okay.
Thanks, Chair. First, I would ask the committee to note that River Faughan Anglers has not objected to this proposal. Rather, our concerns previously raised are about ensuring that it is properly assessed for its environmental impacts on our river and compliance with planning policy and environmental law. From the committee report before you, we remain unclear as to how this has been achieved. The public requires proper access to key council reports that inform this committee's decision. One of these is the Habitats Regulations Assessment, yet as far as I can see, that has not been made available on the portal. International law on access to environmental information is clear. A United Nations decision handed down against the UK a year and a half ago and drawn to the Council's attention a number of times since, effectively states that the Council must promptly make its HRAs available through its online planning portal in compliance with Regulation 5 of the Aarhus Convention. The committee will be aware that where a designation like the Faughan is concerned, the HRA is the most important document that will inform your decision. Whereas decision makers, the law requires that you must be satisfied that the absence of adverse effects have been proven. And if you're not satisfied that that has been proven, the Habitats Regulations prohibits you from granting permission. Yet this HRA has been withheld from the planning portal. This is not a problem with the portal, rather it's a persisting problem with the Council since 2016. Yet it repeatedly fails to promptly upload these key assessments. And citizens should not have to keep seeking out a document that the council is legally required to hold and should be making publicly available online. RFA considers this undermines public participation in the planning process and breaches the council's obligations under the Aarhus Convention. The United Nations happens to agree. There is no reason that I can see that prevents HRAs being uploaded electronically, and I would urge the Planning Committee to send a clear message to the Council that HRAs must be promptly uploaded to the portal in compliance with the Aarhus Convention. Turning to planning policy, the committee report advises members that NIEA Water Management Unit has no objections to the proposal. That's not my reading of this consultation response. Rather, what Water Management Unit states is that if NI Water is content that the sewage infrastructure is capable of handling effluent from the site, then Water Management Unit has no objection. But NI Water is clearly saying that there is presently not the capacity in terms of the local sewage infrastructure. The report before you proposes approval of a private sewage treatment plant until such times as the public system is upgraded. Policy CTY 16 of PPS 21 is the policy that must be considered. It's entitled Development Relying on Non-Main Sewerage. No policy assessment under CTY 16 has been carried out that I can see. On planning law, the committee is being asked to impose conditions to deal with the effects of discharges and sewage disposal at a later date, post-approval. The committee would need to be satisfied that when it comes to the habitats regulations, that is a lawfully sound approach. RFA has previously drawn to planners' attention a 2019 judgment of the Court of England and Wales entitled Preston versus Cumbria County Council and United Utilities Water Limited. This ruling finds that it is unlawful to leave an assessment of the operational effects of discharges from a project to a separate consenting regime post-planning approval. Maybe this is in the HRA, but it's something that needs to be explained. And lastly, the one thing I noted that wasn't mentioned at all is climate. You will be aware that this council has declared a climate emergency and published a climate adaptation plan. This site, if my calculations are correct, is estimated to generate some 2.4 million vehicle movements per year. Yet the effects of such a major emitter on climate does not appear to have been properly addressed. It's for those reasons that we are not happy that it has been properly assessed for its environmental effects. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Just hold there for a minute, members. Anybody got any questions for Mr. Blackwood? Anybody in the chamber or anybody online? No? Okay, thank you. Dean, just hold fast there. We don't have any questions for you, but I'm sure you'll want to stick around. Okay. Members, can I also welcome Mr. David Dalzell, the agent on behalf of the applicant, and Mr. Gordon Chambers, who I believe is actually the applicant, or certainly associated with the applicant. Gentlemen, again, I think you've seen how this has operated so far, so if you take your seats in front of us there, and we'll give you time to settle in. So once again, thanks for joining us. And again, I know that these timings are quite short, but that's what the protocol allows me. So between the two of you, you've got 5 minutes to address the committee, and then I'll open it up to the floor. And if they wish to then ask you any further questions, we'll take it from there. So if you want to take the floor, gentlemen.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and members. And thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. It's nice to be back in person. I'm David Dalzell, Chartered Landscape Architect and Planning Consultant, and I'm the agent for this application. I'm accompanied by the applicant, Gordon Chambers, who's here to answer any questions that they arise. And also our roads engineer, Damien Murray of Atkins, is also available online should any questions of a technical nature of roads arise. I don't intend to take up too much time of the committee today. Primarily, we're here to support the Professional Planning Officer's recommendation to approve this application. But it might be worth recapping some of the main features of this proposal. This proposal is for a trunk road service area, offering a broad range of facilities for the benefit of all users of the A6. With phase 1 of the dual carriageway operational, there's a unique opportunity here to provide appropriate services at this location at Drumahoe Junction, Lismacar roundabout. This is a 7.2 million scheme with convenience shop, hot food, extended hours of operation, truck and coach parking, welfare facilities for drivers to wash, change, rest and refresh, and these are critical for road safety. Recently, we've seen particular challenges faced by the haulage industry because of driver shortages, and a lack of proper facilities on the road network is a major issue. But all road users, including local people and tourists visiting the city and the North West, will benefit from this proposal, not just commercial drivers. There will be facilities for caravan and motorhome tourists, a play area for children and picnic areas. The proposal has support from industry, transport groups, camper van groups and local people. We have demonstrated a clear indication of need for this type of facility in this location. The location, siting and integration have been deemed acceptable with no adverse impact on the countryside. It is acceptable in respect to natural heritage, archaeology, flood risk, residential amenity and environment. It is acceptable to DFI roads, not only the local office but the strategic roads section as well. And we therefore ask that the committee approves this application today. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I'm assuming Mr. Chambers has nothing he wishes to add at this point. You're happy enough? Okay. All right. Members, opening the floor again. If anybody has any questions for David or Gordon, please bring them forward now.
Very briefly, Chair.
Anybody online? Go ahead.
Very briefly. No, just touching base. I see this application has been back and forward a few times there, and I see we have it now. And you have mentioned in the consultation there about the public consultation. I was at the YMCA out there, Drumahoe, and I'm assuming you have just touching base that you are getting a positive response from the residents in that area in regards to the application. And I suppose I'm asking a question which those conditions are put anyway, but in regards to an earlier application which you heard, you know, there were conditions imposed which were not then followed on. I'm assuming you're along, if our planning permission is granted, there are, what have I got there? 42 conditions there on you. It is within your, you are, if you're granted it, you'd be expected to do all 42, but you're more than content to adhere to all 42 conditions that would be granted. And just touching on your consultation, as I say, it mentions there you had one person who had contacted the agent and was it one person who had maybe wrote a letter in regards to a good number that came into the YMCA. So just seeing how the local residents in that area have reacted to the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Go ahead, David.
Thank you. Through the chair, just respond to that. Yes, before we put the application, we did a pre-application community consultation. We got a good turnout from that, from the neighbours, and a good response. And one of the older residents who lives in Gordiga Road actually asked me, will I be able to walk down here and buy a loaf of bread? So this is primarily a trunk road services, and that's its nature, but it also has a benefit to the local community as well in that regard. The second or first part of that, in terms of conditions, yes, it's technically there's been a bit of to and fro. We're back here. It's an outline application, so there does have to be a reserved matter stage. But what I would say is there's a huge amount of detail has gone into the preparation to get it to this stage. It's in many ways practically the detail that's there is practically a full application. And from that, there are suggested conditions there by the professional officer, which are stringent, but they're followable. They're reasonable. There's no reason why they shouldn't be picked up and followed through to the next stage. So we're content with the suggested conditions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I have another councillor online wishes to address a question to you. So go ahead, Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Chair. And it was exactly in the same vein. You know that the 40 odd conditions there. There's quite a few that suggest that this project has a long way to go. And you know, it's like seeking assurances that at some stage we won't see like conditions looking to get dropped off, because there are quite a few, you know, that are fundamental conditions, and that no development will take place before they're actually met and achieved. So it was just again seeking reassurances from the applicant that that will take place.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Anything further you want to add to that?
Just to reiterate, Chair, that there's nothing that we see that shouldn't be achievable in that. They're reasonable conditions. They are detailed conditions and they're stringent conditions, rightly so. But it's perfectly achievable and should be complied with.
Okay. Okay, Councillor Gallagher, yeah. Anybody else? Any other questions? Councillor McKinney? Bear with me. Go ahead, Councillor McKinney.
Yeah, it's just a question to both there, both people, both applicants. How could you reassure Mr. Blackwood that this wouldn't interfere with the farm?
There has been detailed documentation provided with the application, both in terms of flood risk assessments, the drainage is designed, storm drainage is designed around a sud system, which is to reduce the runoff to greenfield runoff, and also the quality of it is assured. There's mention in the conditions of a final construction environment management plan, but as part of this application stage, we have actually provided a construction environment management plan which sets out in detail method statements in terms of environmental protection and how the chance of pollution is eliminated. The site is self-contained and will be self-contained, and strict environmental measures will be followed on site, and they are set out. We've already set those out, and those will be followed up at every stage.
You were wanting to come on there, go ahead.
Just an answer to your question as regarding the residents. I have spoken to many of the local residents and they're all for and quite excited of this prospect of having the facilities there. It is going to produce obviously somewhere around 50, 55 jobs locally. And being in the manufacturing business where we have our lorries, drivers have to stop every 45 minutes. So you need somewhere. There isn't anywhere in the A6 safely where any lorries can pull in. So the facilities that are going to be based here are going to take a lot of the HGV vehicles off the road, which should help. But I'm getting a lot of positive feedback from all my neighbours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Members, any other questions before I move on to the officer team? No, everybody happy enough. Okay, any questions for the officers in relation to the application? Councillor McKinney.
It's just really to point out something that you said about the bottom of the Glen Shane. You can't stop overnight there. The only place you actually stop overnight between Belfast, Larne and the city here is actually the Apple Green, which is only about 20 miles up the road from Larne or Belfast. So this will be the only place we're allowed to stop, really, before they move on. Thank you.
So speaks a man of experience, I think. Years of driving HGVs. Anybody else, any questions for the officers? Councillor Jackson.
Thanks, Chair. And I suppose it's good to see this application come back. I think it was there was fundamental issues when it was presented before, particularly in around the access and egress, and it's good to see that by and large those have been resolved. But there was an indication that there will be slight queuing at the A6. I just wouldn't mind a wee bit more detail in relation to that, and because we all know the importance of the A6, and we all know, and it's easy to see how this proposal, this application would complement that strategic road network. But what we can't have is, we want to ensure is that there's no negative impacts to that protected route. So in terms of the queuing, and it was mentioned in the report that it would be a minimal impact, I just wouldn't mind a wee bit more information in relation to that. Thanks, Chair.
Chair, basically roads have just indicated that there would be a small amount of queuing in the evening peak hour, but they said that on the whole they were satisfied with the transport impact. So I think if it was going to be an impact that would be significant, severe or dangerous, that we wouldn't be at the point we're at today, given that, you know, we've waited so long now. It's been resolving the roads issues that has been I suppose the period between it coming before committee first and where we're at now. So I'd be satisfied that, you know, that aspect, that it's okay in respect of road safety. There's been a stage 1 safety audit completed, and before the development comes live, I suppose, there's stage 2, 3 and 4 safety audits to go through as well. So I don't think we'd be at the stage of bringing it before members today if roads weren't satisfied that all of those details can be addressed at reserved matter stage. Does that answer your question?
Oh, thanks, Rosie. I appreciate that. And I just, I suppose, congratulate all the work that's been carried out by everybody to get us to this stage. Thanks for that.
Thanks. Thanks, Rosie. Thanks, Councillor Jackson. Anybody else got any questions for officers? Councillor Mooney.
There's just one matter I think was raised by Mr. Blackwood about HRA not being uploaded on the portal. Is there any, maybe just we could give some explanation, if there is an explanation for that anyway, just to be fair, that's Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Mooney. I was wondering if anybody would ask that. So do we have a view here at the minute? Go ahead, Andre.
Thank you, Member, through the Chair. I can confirm that the HRA was carried out by SES, and SES were consulted during the processing of the application. However, the HRA is not available to view on the planning portal.
Yeah, members, I'm grateful to Andre for that indication in relation to that. Members, it would be appropriate, I think, certainly that before any decision notice should issue in relation to this matter one way or another, that document should be uploaded. And that people would have an opportunity to make any representations that they would in relation to that. That's a matter that's only come to the top table's attention during the course of this meeting. So I do think we would like to have an opportunity before any decision notice would issue in relation to this matter, that we would get that uploaded and have an opportunity for people to make representations. Well, as always, members, you know, any decision which you make in relation to this matter today, or any recommendation that you make in relation to this matter, cannot issue until such time as the call-in period has passed, but also members, you know, there would be an opportunity for any representations that might be received in relation to that matter to be considered. Any material representations which are received before the decision notice issues would be considered in relation to the matter, members.
Thanks for clearing that up, Philip. Okay. So, bearing all that in mind, is there any further questions for officers? And if there aren't, then I am going to, as usual, open it up to the floor. Don't see any questions coming. So the recommendation in front of us today is for an approval for this application. So over to yourselves, Alderman Kerrigan.
Sorry.
Either or.
Can I just get clarification on what Philip has just said? I was saying here that we can't really make a decision until we've actually seen this document and given people a chance to reply.
No, that's not.
Well, what I mean, I'm sort of.
Well, that's not my understanding.
I was driving too many times. That's what's wrong with me.
Well, I know where you're coming from, but that wouldn't be my understanding of what Philip's just said. So I'll ask him to clear that up for you again.
Members, I mean, you have the information, as you always have done, in relation to this from the information that the members have received in relation to it. But the Aarhus Convention point, which Mr. Blackwood has raised in relation to this, is a fair one. That people have the opportunity to consider that document and make representations in relation to that document if they believe that those are appropriate. We will consider any such representations that they are received. We'll ensure that that document is uploaded to the planning portal today. Obviously, members, you've considered the matters in relation to the HRA, as I understand it, through the representations that officers have made in relation to this and one thing or another. But I do believe that it's more than fair that members of the public should have an opportunity to consider that document. Members, the difficulty, of course, is we're not going to have another planning committee, so we can't defer this matter for a month or anything like that in relation to this. But members, we certainly would be in a position whereby we would consider any representations that are received in relation to this following this committee.
Thank you, Phil. Okay. Yeah. Right, members. Well, look, there is a recommendation for approval in front of you, Alderman Kerrigan.
Thank you, Chair. And late as there's an outline plan and we'll have to come back for full planning, I'm content at this stage to propose we accept the officer's recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Kerrigan.
I second it.
Thank you, Alderman Breslin. So we have a proposal in front of you, members, for your consideration. Proposed by Alderman Kerrigan, seconded by Alderman Breslin, and no more need be said now. Okay, Maura, we'll move it to the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Members, this is item 3, and it's a proposal to accept the officer's recommendation. Alderman Alan Breslin.
For.
Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
For Maura.
Thank you. Alderman Drew Thompson.
For Maura.
Thank you. Councillor Jason Barr.
For.
Thanks. Councillor Raymond Barr, his apologies. Councillor John Boyle.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Angela Dobbins. Still no. Come back. Councillor Paul Gallagher.
For.
Councillor Christopher Jackson.
For Maura.
Thank you. Councillor Dan Kelly.
For.
Thanks. Councillor Patricia Logue.
For Maura.
Thank you. Councillor Kieran Maguire. Thank you. Councillor Philip McKinney.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Sean Mooney.
Chair, I have to abstain because I left the room.
That's right.
But I've been agreement anyway, but I have to abstain on the vote.
Okay.
Thank you.
Abstained. Thank you. Let's go back and make sure. Councillor Angela Dobbins. Thank you. Unanimous.
Okay. Sometimes the call of nature comes and you have to leave the room, folks. That's just the way it goes. And we'll be getting to that very, very shortly. But that's a unanimous approval. The city solicitor has requested that he might come in and address the committee briefly. So go ahead, Philip.
Yep, members. So just as you know, the call-in period normally is a period of 5 days after the issue of the minutes of the planning committee meeting. We do have the issue in and around the HRA. We have to be reasonable in respect of that. We also have the Easter break coming up in some time in relation to that. So no decision notice. We'll arrange for the HRA to make sure that that gets onto the planning portal today, tomorrow at the very latest. And no decision notice will issue in this relation to this matter for a period of 4 weeks to allow us to consider any material representations which might be received in that time. And apologies to all of those concerned for that issue in relation to the HRA.
Philip, you still looking to come on, Chris, or go ahead?
And it's on that point, Chair, and I suppose it's unfortunate that we were in a position to take a decision on that without the HRA report being uploaded onto the portal and being visible for all. But picking up on Alderman Kerrigan's point around this being an outline application, that there are further steps for this application to go through. So in that regard, it does give us a bit of time. It does give all interested parties time to consider the report. So it was on that basis that that we were content to approve it on the basis that there are there's further steps along along the process, and it certainly isn't the applicant's fault that so it would be unfair at this stage and at this juncture to defer the application. But I think it's just for the record to highlight the fact that this is an outline application and that there are further steps in the process of this application. So it isn't that the absence of a HRA report on the portal has been completely dismissed and ignored, and it was great. It was good to see that being reinforced by our city solicitor. So I just wanted to make that point before we take a break. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jackson. So, in a manner of speaking, that's an approval, I suppose. Gentlemen, obviously, as members have pointed out as well, this is an outline application. You've got quite a way to go. But on behalf of committee members for now, can I wish you all the best with it? No doubt we'll be seeing you all again in not too distant future, perhaps. But just to thank you for your attendance here today, and again to thank Mr. Blackwood for joining us online as well. So, gentlemen, you're free to get on with the rest of your day now, I suppose. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Right, members. I think we all know what's coming now because we've been sitting here quite a while. So we will take a 10-minute break, comfort break for members to do whatever it is they do during a comfort break, and of course officers. And what are we? 5:30, so say back for about 20 to 5. Members. Welcome back, everybody, and thanks for the patience in relation to this. So we're going to move to the next application on the list here, and it's number 6 in the pack. That's LA 11 2020 0222F. There are a few late items in relation to it, so I'm going to get Maura to walk us through those, and then we'll take a few minutes to have a look at them. So Maura, if you want to take it from here.
Thank you, Chair. Members, this is item 6, and it's the application at Windsor Terrace and Infirmary Road. This information will be in front of you. Just put it into the timeline. There was an email from a Niall McEwen on the 16th of March, a further email from a Dervla McGeehan on the 16th of March, an email from a Cahill O'Doherty on the 16th of March, an email and objection letter from Christina Shields, and that's the 17th of March, email from Rebecca O'Doherty, and that was also dated the 17th of March, a further email from a Garrett O'Doherty, and that's dated the 18th of March. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 emails and an objection letter. Okay, Chair? Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Maura. Okay, members, I think we'll take 10 minutes initially to look through those. If I get an indication we can go sooner, then we will. But if we need more time, of course, we'll take more time as well. Okay, members, so let's take a few minutes to have a look over those late items. I do know that I have to read a couple of them myself, so I'm sure you're the same. Okay, thanks. Okay, everyone, does anybody need any more time or are we content to move? Okay, we're all happy enough to move on. All right, members, okay, so that's that, but, so the next application, L11 2020 0222F, residential development comprising 42 number of apartments, etc. And our officer presenting is Rosie again. So go for it, Rosie.
Chair. Members, item 6 is LA 11 2020 0222F for a proposed residential development of 42 apartments comprising 33 one-bed apartments and 9 two-bed apartments with associated infrastructure, car parking, landscaping and all site works with access from Infirmary Road on lands at 11, 11A and 12 Windsor Terrace, Infirmary Road, and adjacent to the rears of 2468, 10, 12, 14, 18, 20 and 22 Craigan Road and 1 Infirmary Road. And numbers 1 to 10 Windsor Terrace, with a recommendation to approve. And the applications before you this afternoon, members, as there have been more than 5 objections received. So this slide just shows the location of the site. It's located to the rear of what the dwellings on Windsor Terrace and at Craigan Road, and Brook Park is located here at this location. Access to the site then is between numbers 4 and 5 Windsor Terrace, and you'll see that ground levels rise up into the site. It's occupied at present by 2 single-storey dwellings, and they're served by 2 car parks. These plans just show and provide indicative plans of what the proposed development will look like from within the site. And this is an indicative plan from Infirmary Road between the dwellings on Windsor Terrace looking into the site. The configuration of the site means that the apartment building that's proposed basically follows, if you can see the arrow there, the configuration of the wall running around at Brook Park. And then this is just a slide showing the front elevation. But as you can see from this in the corner here, the development, it's not one linear form. It's in a form of a dog leg there, as I'm referring to it. So there have been a number of objections received. And during the processing of the application, we've had a number of amendments to the development. So the proposed scale, massing and design have been amended on a number of occasions, and the number of apartments have been reduced from 45 to 42, and neighbours re-notified about these changes. So in total, there have been 118 objections, including letters before you today, and 1 objection from a local MLA. So the issues of concern raised by the objectors are summarised here. There's concern regarding the designation in the area plan for civic and educational use, residential amenity including overlooking, privacy, loss of light and overshadowing, overdevelopment, impact on visual amenity, that the apartments are out of character with the area, there's inadequate parking, there's an access route within the site to Brook Park, there's inadequate outdoor amenity space, impact on townscape character, impact on the conservation area, that the proposal would block views of Brook Park and of Eugene's Cathedral and other listed buildings from Brook Park, concerns regarding air pollution, loss of trees. There's concern that the proposal will result in the replacement of the neighbour's boundary wall to the rear of Windsor Terrace, that the current buildings still serve a function, that the rental of flats would lead to transient occupation and antisocial behaviour. The consideration should be given to the land for alternative but more appropriate uses. That there was insufficient engagement with the public by the developer. That there was a query regarding neighbour notification letters, whereby the application appeared in the paper before the letters were received. Concern regarding water supply and sewage, and potential for rat infestation during construction. Members, these have been addressed in the planning report and will be addressed in the presentation today, but if there's any questions, take that at the end. Battery's going to go. Sorry, excuse me, members. All right, you'll note here, members, from this slide that of all the consultees, these are the consultees that we've engaged with, and there have been no objections. In respect of then the area plan designations, there's concern raised that the site is designated for civic and educational uses, but that the use will be changed into a residential development. So this would be a loss of land for civic and educational purposes. Now, the last uses are on the site relate to an orthodontist practice, which is now not operational, and a structural civil engineering practice, which is currently still occupied for that use. So given the predominantly residential setting, it's not considered that a residential use on the site would be inappropriate. The site is in a fairly historic setting, with partially within the Clarendon Street Conservation Area, adjacent to Brook Park, which is a historic domain, and is surrounded by a number of listed buildings, including St Eugene's Cathedral, the Bishop's Parochial House, Christ Church, and the Brook Park Gate Lodge. This slide just shows the pink wash here is that this is the only part of the site which is actually within the conservation area. The site itself lies outside the conservation area. The slide just shows the listed buildings that surround the site. So you've got the Bishop's Parochial House, St Eugene's Cathedral, Christ Church, and the Gate Lodge to Brook Park is in this location. And these are the views that are into the site from within the conservation area. So the only view that's from the site is from Infirmary Road, provided here across the access to the site. This slide just shows the site as can be read between the Bishop's Parochial House and St Eugene's Cathedral. And there are also views then, this is a view from Brook Park looking towards St Eugene's Cathedral, and this is the roof of the existing orthodontist practice, which is on the site at present. In support then of the scale and density of the proposed development, the agent submitted historic photographs showing a building that previously occupied the site, located between the Parochial House and St Eugene's Cathedral. And the slide shows a view of Christ Church School from Brook Park, taken in the 1970s before the building was demolished. This slide then shows an image of what it's an indicative plan showing what the proposed development would look like with the Bishop's Parochial House, St Eugene's Cathedral, and the dwellings on Windsor Terrace. It shows just the scale and mass that's proposed, and the trees in Brook Park there provide a backdrop to the site. Again, that's just the view from within Brook Park. And this image just shows then with the proposed development and what it would look like from Brook Park. And there's a view there, it's a closer up view of the proposed development with St Eugene's Cathedral in the background. So in terms of the impact on the conservation area and the setting of the listed buildings, officers consider that because the site is located behind the dwellings on Windsor Terrace and Craigan Road, and as we'll come on to, it's proposed to reduce the site levels. Within the site, the impact then in the conservation area is effectively mitigated by the screening effect provided by the existing dwellings. In addition, there's a variation in the heights, there's setback, there's the configuration of the building, which forms a dogleg within the site, the sympathetic use and mix of contemporary materials. Members or officers feel these all combine then to absorb the development, the scale and massing of the development. So in balance, officers consider that the development won't adversely affect the setting of the identified listed buildings or views into or out of the conservation area. Just this image just shows that the provision here of this break in the built form allows views to continue on to St Eugene's Cathedral and the city beyond from Brook Park. So looking from Brook Park towards the site, only the upper floors of the development will be viewed above the wall there at Brook Park. So the only views then from Infirmary Road, as I've said, were from, looking into the site at the access to the site. So the development we won't feel will impact adversely on views from within the conservation area looking towards Brook Park. So on balance, officers are satisfied that the development complies with BH11 of PPS 6 in respect of its setting on listed buildings, with BH6 of PPS 6 in respect of its impact on Brook Park, and BH11 of PPS 6 in respect of its setting on the listed buildings. So in terms of the residential environment and the quality that will be created, first of all, the site is developed over 2 levels. As you can see from the top slide here, there's existing buildings on the site which sit at a higher level than the dwellings on Windsor Terrace. And at the bottom slide here, it just shows with this red dashed line, it's proposed to reduce the levels, the ground levels within the site. So the development will sit within the site rather than on top of the existing ground levels. And the bottom 2 floors of the development there will effectively be sitting behind a new wall, which is proposed here at the boundary with the properties on Windsor Terrace. So slide just shows the layout of the development within the site forming that dogleg formation. The proposed apartment buildings range in height between 3 and 4 stories, and they drop to 2 stories at the rear of the development where it faces Brook Park. So it just shows that I suppose there will be an increase in the scale and massing of the proposed development when it's compared with the buildings that are on the site at present. Officers consider that whilst the scale and massing of the proposed development is higher, the reduction in site levels allows the development to sit within the site and to make use of the surrounding buildings, which screen its full height, massing and extent. And the development won't be viewed in its entirety from any viewpoint. Therefore, it is not considered to be out of character for this central area location. In terms of its density, it's located in the central area. It's located close to Cregan Street and Northland Road, which are considered to be key and linked transport corridors and main transportation nodes within the city. In accordance with policy, the site is in a location where it's desirable to promote an increase in density. So objectors raised concern that the development of apartments in this location is out of character with the area. Now, whilst there aren't apartments in the immediate location, given its location in the central area, apartments are considered to be acceptable in principle on this brownfield site and a sustainable means of achieving an increase in density in the central area. In terms of its design, the overall form, materials and detailing of the building produces a contemporary design which uses a mix of glazing, buff-coloured brick, render and railing detail to provide visual interest. And officers considered the overall design of the development as high quality given the historic context, and the contemporary design and use of materials contrasts in a complementary manner with the historic buildings in the location. In respect of amenity and overlooking, it's probably the case in any urban area that a degree of overlooking is to be expected. In this case, there's existing buildings on the site which sit at an elevated level, and there's existing car parks, and overlooking is possible from both these locations. You can see from this slide, this is the building located to the rear of 1 to 4 Windsor Terrace, and there's a car park here to the rear of 5 to 10 Windsor Terrace, and this is the former orthodontist practice. So there's a separation distance between this orthodontist practice and the dwellings here in Windsor Terrace, currently of 18 to 22 metres, and that'll increase to 25 metres with the proposed development. So Creating Places advises that a distance of about 20 metres is generally acceptable to minimise overlooking. Creating Places also advises that greater flexibility will generally be appropriate in assessing the separation distance for apartments in inner urban locations such as the application site. So officers considered the separation distance achieved in the site is adequate to minimise unacceptable adverse overlooking. At present, to the rear of 1 to 4 Windsor Terrace is a separation of only approximately 8 metres. And there's windows all along the elevation of the building. Let's go on to this. There's windows all along the elevation of that building which face on to 1 to 4 Windsor Terrace. You can just go on to this slide. This is 1 to 4 Windsor Terrace. And the building here, it now, rather than facing straight behind 1 to 4, this part of the apartment building now is angled away. So it will reduce overlooking from the apartments in this part of the building. In respect of public and private amenity space, for private amenity space, there's a mix of balconies proposed and there's rear amenity space provided to these apartments at the rear of the building. There's public amenity space provided here with a rooftop terrace, a seating area here, and there's good access to Brook Park. So officers feel that there's adequate private and public amenity space. There is an element of tree loss just to the rear of the site here behind the gate lodge, but there's compensatory planting to be provided, and this has been assessed by NIA and is considered acceptable in terms of biodiversity. In terms of parking, the development for 42 apartments generates a parking requirement of 55 parking spaces, but 24 spaces are proposed. So there's a shortfall of 31 parking spaces. DFI Roads has pointed in their consultation response to a lack of on-street parking in the area, and this is also an issue of concern for the neighbours, who advise that there's congestion and lack of parking in the area, which they consider will only be exacerbated by the provision of 42 apartments. The agent has carried out a parking survey which indicates availability before 7 a.m. and after 7 p.m, although during weekdays it's acknowledged that between 8 and 6 the local area typically experiences an influx of commuters who park on the streets. Policy AMP7 of PPS3 advises that to tackle growing congestion problems and to help reduce reliance on the private car, in certain circumstances, it will no longer be appropriate or desirable for developers to meet the demand for car parking generated by their development. And this is especially the case in city centres where alternative modes of transport exist. Officers have given consideration to the concerns raised by the residents. And officers consider that to provide full parking standards would bring more carriage into the area, thereby increasing congestion. Officers acknowledge that to assist in reducing reliance on the public car and not to exacerbate congestion in the area, it's not appropriate to require full parking standards on the site. It's in an area where there's good pedestrian access to local facilities and it's well served by public transport. Neighbours also raise a concern regarding air quality, and it's probably connected with generation of more cars. Environmental Health was consulted and they advised that the area is an existing air quality management area and they have a monitoring point on the Craigan Road Infirmary Road junction. And it's been declared an area due to the elevated levels of nitrogen dioxide from traffic. Environmental Health advised that they've been monitoring air quality in the area and that nitrogen dioxide levels at this location have been below the health limits for a number of years in a positive direction. And the monitoring results show that pollution levels on Infirmary Road lessen with distance from the junction with Craigan Road. So whilst car parking provision might be below standard in the context of air quality, reduced parking provision may reduce car ownership and is a measure supported by the SPPS. Members, we've also given consideration to noise in respect of proximity to the Dawn Bar, which is on Craigan Road. And Environmental Health proposed conditions there just for construction detail to mitigate for noise for the residents of the proposed apartments. And the apartment building on the ground floor at this location, it's proposed that there'll be a plant room, and Environmental Health recommended a condition that the developer undertake a noise impact assessment demonstrating any mitigation that's necessary to protect residents from any noise emanating from the plant room. Objectors also raised a concern that future occupants of the apartments may cause noise and antisocial behaviour, but officers, assume we take it that can't be assumed, and Environmental Health and PSNI both have powers to control noise and antisocial behaviour, so it's not a reason to refuse planning permission. You'll note from the report that there's no concerns regarding natural heritage interests, that we've considered ground contamination, and there's no contaminants likely to impact on the environment or human health. And in respect of sewage disposal, NI Water had advised that there were network capacity issues, but an engineering solution has been agreed with the applicant and will be fully funded by the applicant. So NI Water has no further objections subject to conditions. In respect of flooding and site drainage, NI Water are recommending a condition that development won't proceed below subfloor construction until an extension to the existing surface water sewer network is provided, again, by the applicant. So in conclusion, members, it's the professional opinion of officers having taken into consideration the relevant planning policies, consultee responses and objectors' concerns that the proposal is acceptable in this location, and approval is recommended subject to the conditions set out in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosie. Members, we have, pardon me. Again, we have a few speakers to address the committee. They're all online, hopefully. And the first of those that I'm going to invite to address the committee is Christina Shields. Christina, I hope you're online. And Christina is an objector to this planning application. So.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Hey, Christina, see you there now. Could we just do a wee sound check with you to see if we can hear you okay?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, I think we can. If we have any difficulty, we'll let you know. So you're very welcome, Christina. The normal run of things here is that I allow you 5 minutes to address the committee, and then I open it up to the floor for anybody that might have any questions for you.
Thank you.
So, whenever you're comfortable to start, then I invite you to do so.
Thanks. So I live in Windsor Terrace, and I'm representing most of my neighbours in Windsor Terrace and some on Great James's Street today. Too many to list in only 5 minutes. The Derry Area Plan 2011 has been categorically ignored in this planning committee report that's been presented. PPS 7 highlights that there is no unacceptable adverse effect on existing or proposed properties in terms of overlooking, loss of light, overshadowing, noise, or other disturbance. In the report, section 11.58 makes a number of inaccurate assumptions, contradicts point 11.20, and does not address our concerns. The current building is single story, but it is only occupied from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. The gates are locked every evening, so there's no car parking outside these hours. The proposed development will be occupied 24/7 and is estimated to be 9 metres in height at the back of my house. And this is more than 2 double-decker sized buses, one on top of the other, and it will totally obliterate the natural light and will destroy the privacy in the home. And from what you showed earlier, the seating area and the rooftop terrace is going to be directly behind us. And there's also the light pollution and noise that will come with this. And this is in direct contravention to PPS 7. As already mentioned, there's a significant parking shortfall. DFI have confirmed there should be 55 spaces minimum, and I think it's naive for the planning office to assume that individuals will use public transport or walk instead of cars. Your paragraph 11.102 states that proposals should not prejudice road safety or significantly inconvenience the flow of traffic. You've chosen to ignore that the entrance in Infirmary Road leads onto an already heavily congested one-way system, gridlocked on a daily basis, with cars coming from Creggan Hill, the Lone Moor Roadside, William Street, all running into Great James's Street, Northern Road. We have cars regularly parked on both sides of the road, mostly after 7 p.m. Other residents have sent in numerous photographs taken over the last 3 years where this parking has primarily occurred after 7 p.m. and throughout the day and evenings and at weekends. Then the developer's parking survey was undertaken in 2019, so it's outdated. Parking in this area has significantly increased in 4 years, and it looks like they've included the use of William Street Public Car Park, where they refer to available spaces 200 to 400 metres from the street. So the impact on an already overburdened road with serious traffic congestion is completely ignored, and it's cited as grounds for not approving a development. There's pollution as well. You confirm that the air quality in the area is poor, while the levels improve as you come further along. Additional 42 vehicles minimum are going to exacerbate this problem. And there are 2 primary schools within 100 metres of this development, and the health of those children must be taken seriously. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Christina. Just stay online there. So I'm going to open it up to the members here who might have some questions for you. Can't say they will and I can't say they won't, but I'm over to yourselves, members, if anybody's got any questions for Christina at this point. Councillor Jackson.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks, Christina. Just in relation to the very final point that you made, I suppose just in relation to the primary school children and the health and safety of those children, I just wouldn't mind giving you the opportunity to elaborate a wee bit more. What specifically are you concerned about in relation to this application?
Well, St. Eugene's Primary School and Nursery School is just behind the cathedral. You saw the pictures of how close the cathedral is. So it's just directly behind. So, and you see the children coming out walking every day. They're going for their nature walks or even being dropped off to school in the morning. And they're breathing in all those fumes. And you're talking about nursery school age up to 11, 12-year-olds. You know, that's a crucial development stage. Then you've got model primary school just up the road. There's the same problems there. This has got to be considered. It's got to be taken into account.
Well, thanks for that. I know the area particularly well. I just wanted to give Christina an opportunity to come on and explain a wee bit more. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Jackson. Anybody else? Any other questions? Anybody online? Any questions for Christina? None online either. Okay, Christina, just sit tight there. Won't appear to have any other questions for you. So, members, we'll move on from Christina now. We also have agents on behalf of the applicant, Matthew Crothers, and Michael Graham, who's a planning consultant. And gentlemen, I hope you're joining us online.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me okay? That's Michael Graham here.
I hear you loud and clear, Michael. So, Michael, it's the same drill for yourself as it was for Christina. I afford you 5 minutes to address the committee, and then I'll open it up to the floor for anybody that might have any questions for you. So, whenever you're ready to roll, whenever you're comfortable to do, or whenever comfortable to do so, then you've got the floor. So, take it away.
Chair, members of the Planning Committee, thank you for affording us the opportunity to address you this afternoon. I'm Michael Graham, Chartered Town Planner with Tetra Tech, and we represent the applicant and name of the agent for this application and its associated conservation area consent application. And today I have Matthew Crothers with me, and Brian Madden and Seamus Bork of Consort Design Group, the architects, and Mr. Rory Murtagh of Atkins, the transport consultant. We're pleased the Council's Planning Department has recommended approval of this full planning application and its conservation area consent, and would like to thank the Council officers for the hard work in progressing it to this stage. Regarding the principle and compatibility of the development, the scheme is a residential development, 42 apartments, 33 one-bed and 9 two-bed, and obviously all the other associated infrastructure, etc. The site is zoned for civic industrial use in the Derry area plan, but development for purposes other than these uses is not precluded. Notably, the current and last uses on the site are a former orthodontist and an engineering practice. Thus, the site has not been occupied for civic education use for some time. Given its predominantly residential setting, the proposed residential use of this brownfield site is entirely appropriate for the central city location. It is compatible with adjoining land uses. In terms of the scheme objectives and housing need, the objective of the scheme is to help address the well-documented need for new housing within the city. This scheme is suitable for either private or social housing. The applicant has had extensive dialogue with local representatives and social housing providers from the outset, and the scheme has been designed to meet lifetime home standards. The applicant is in the final stages of negotiations with the social housing provider and intends it to be a social housing scheme for over 55s. The housing executive is supported for the residential mix proposed. The scheme will provide the opportunity for downsizing for people in the vicinity, from large homes to more sustainable accommodation, meeting their current needs without leaving their district. This could free up larger family homes in a district and thereby support a sustainable, cohesive community. It is the perfect sustainable urban location to address significant demand for housing within this district. In terms of design considerations in the historical context, the scheme's design provides a high-quality residential scheme. It has been designed by award-winning conservation architects Concert, who worked on the Guildhall refurbishment. The scheme uses quality materials and finishes, fits and complements with neighbouring buildings, land uses and the surrounding context. The design follows the concave of the stone wall boundary with Brook Park and reflects the commonly 3- and 4-storey terraces positioned in adjacent sloping streets, and is in keeping with that local vernacular in terms of design and appearance. The density is in keeping with the existing residential in the surrounding area and provide a varied mix of apartment types. The proposed design will reprofile the land back to its original pre-development levels, removing the existing elevated car parking area and the existing built substructure and imported fill material. The design also puts the buildings further back into the site, providing increased separation distances and result in higher levels of privacy to properties in Windsor Terrace. Building heights remain beneath those of the adjacent properties on the Cregan Road, which was advised in past discussions. In response to the Historic Environment Division listed buildings, a break in the uppermost level of the terrace has also been incorporated and designed to break up the massing. This, coupled with the lower height of apartments at either end, will allow retention of vistas from the high ground of Brook Park across the site to frame views of St Eugene's and the wider city context beyond. Overall, the design, density, high outlet, positioning have been very carefully considered to ensure that no overlooking, loss of light, overshadowing, noise or other disturbance upon the amenity of adjacent properties will occur. Turning to parking and traffic, the site offers excellent connectivity within the city centre of Derry. It is a highly sustainable location, readily accessible to public transport and local amenities, including parks, churches, schools, retail and leisure facilities, all of which within easy walking distance. Given its accessibility and location in the central area, adequate levels of car parking are also provided. The site's accessibility via modes other than the private car, as well as reduced car parking provision, will help minimise traffic generation and reduce congestion. Private amenity space, apartments have their own areas of private amenity in the form of individual private terraces and balcony, and there's also communal private amenity space throughout, which is all generously reinforced by the public park grounds of Brook and John Clifford Parks. In terms of visual impact, the views from the adjacent existing development provides little to no visual impact upon the surrounding area or skyline. Only fleeting views are available from Infirmary Road as you pass the entrance. It is effectively obscured from vision from longer views. The height is below that of adjacent buildings on the Cregan Road, and the ridge line is beneath that of Brook Park along its southern boundary, and lower and comparable to the adjacent townscape. The break in the wider-most level of the terrace also ensures that St Eugene's Spire and the wider views across Derry City remain available and uninterrupted. There's a sister conservation area application which allows its design, which we're required to do to remove the pillars and gates, etc. at the front, and the proposed detailing is much simpler and less cluttered in appearance and has been accepted by Council's Planning Department and Historic Environment Division as an appropriate replacement and bringing betterment and enhancement to that area of the conservation area. We note that Council's Planning Department has gone into some depth in the third-party concerns, and all of those raised have been satisfactorily addressed. The consultee response is all consultees are content and offer no objections subject to conditions. In summary, this residential scheme provides a highly sustainable approach to the development of the central site, and when assessed against all relevant planning policy, guidance, advice and material considerations, it is acceptable. It provides a high-quality residential scheme and a sustainable development of these lands. I take this opportunity to thank the committee for the opportunity to speak and trust that the elected members agree that full planning permission and conservation area consent ought to be granted. and we'd be happy to answer any questions the committee would have. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Members, I'll open it up to yourselves if you've got any questions for Mr. Graham. Your time. Mr. Mooney.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Michael, for the presentation. Just I picked up on one aspect there, and I think it was to do with the, I suppose you could phrase it, the targeted age demographic. You did say over 55s for this for this development. It just reminded me of the fact that we had a very recent application that was granted a few years ago. It opened there on the Strand Road. It was for over 55s as well. But given that age group and given the location of the intended site, I would know well. Do you think possibly, and given the concerns of the objector, Christina, previously about parking and health and safety and things like that there in local school children, do you think that age group demographic would possibly drive down car ownership? And do you think there'd be more? Do you think, in your opinion, would they be reliable or reliant on maybe walking, given the proximity to the town and local amenities? Thank you, Chair.
Oh yeah, Mr. Graham.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Mooney, for the question. Number of factors there. Yes, the over 55s element I'll deal with first. This scheme came out of, obviously, we've been working on it for a number of years to get it right. And in terms of the developers behind this were also behind Thornhill, and they were aware of the need for over 55s housing across the city. And obviously then they were proposing this scheme. And then we became aware there's a need from the social housing aspect, and they've been in discussions with Habenteg, etc. in that regard, in terms of the over 55. And turning then to, if you like, car parking issue, obviously, if it's over 55s, central location, as I said in my presentation, the ability to walk to all of these facilities, whether they be the schools, the church, the retailing, the leisure, etc., that obviously reduces dependence on the private car. You also then have policy support in that in terms of policy AMP7 and PPS3, which allows you a number of choices to reduce car parking. And again, then it's obviously over to the members in terms of I think it's in parking area B in the Derry area plan as well. So when you put all of that together, then I suppose the best way I could sum it up, obviously reduce car parking, reduce congestion, reduce pollution, etc. And obviously then you have the requisite numbers of car parking. The last thing I would say in car parking, I suppose, is that we did do surveys in 2019, but we also put further evidence in 2022, various photographs, etc. And it's important to understand that this is a residential scheme, and the demand for car parking for residential schemes is from 7 p.m. in the evening to 7 a.m. in the morning. And we have undertaken numerous surveys throughout this applications processing, and there is an abundance of available on-street car parking during those hours. It's during the day where you have the commuters coming in. That's a slightly wider issue for the city, but obviously this is not going to exacerbate the problem. It is a residential use we're seeking. So hopefully that answers everything, Councillor Mooney. I think I've covered it, all the bits there.
Thanks, Michael. I think Councillor Mooney wants to come, wants to come back. And again, go ahead, Councillor Mooney.
Thank you, Chair. Just one more point, Michael. Intended car parking spaces, are they just for residents only of that complex?
Go ahead, Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Chair. Yes, they're for the scheme and the scheme only, and therefore it'll be up to the developers of the scheme to ensure the management of that, so that you don't have people trying to park in it. It is solely for the members, and that's a management issue that's similar to other schemes in the city, and have to look after that aspect.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Anybody else? Any other questions? For Mr. Graham, anybody online? No. Okay. Okay, Michael. Nobody's indicated that they want to ask any questions, so we'll move on. But obviously, you're going to stay with us. So, members, moving along to the obvious thing now, and that is that you have an opportunity to ask any questions of officers that you may feel appropriate. All very quiet today. Okay, members, I don't see anybody online either with any questions. So, moving on. Obviously, in front of me here and in front of you, recommendation from officers here is to approve the application. And so I'll put it open the floor to see what you're thinking. Sorry, Christina Shields, I see in our chat box you're asking if you can ask questions. Unfortunately, no, you can't. Our protocol wouldn't allow me to do that. We have a particular process and we have to stick to it. That's the legal parameter that we work within. So, members, again, it's open to the floor and I'm going to pass it out to you.
Chair.
Well,
Councillor Gallagher.
Go ahead, Paul.
Chair, I propose we go with the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Okay, members, so proposal from Councillor Gallagher to approve the application. Go with the officer recommendation.
Second it, Chair.
Seconded by Councillor Philip McKinney. So proposal to accept and approve. Members, it's on the floor. Proposed by Councillor Gallagher, seconded by Councillor McKinney. And without any further ado, I will ask Maura to take it to the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Members, this is item 8 in his proposal to accept the officer's recommendation. Alderman Alan Breslin. Alderman Alan Breslin. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
Against, Maura.
Against. Alderman Drew Thompson.
Against.
Okay. Councillor Jason Barr.
For.
Okay. Councillor Raymond Barr. Apologies. Councillor John Boyle.
Against.
Councillor Angela Dobbins. Councillor Paul Gallagher.
For.
Okay. Councillor Christopher Jackson. Okay. Councillor Dan Kelly.
For, Maura.
Thank you. Councillor Patricia Logue. Councillor Logue.
Maura, my internet dropped off for about 2 minutes, and I'm just wondering what's the position?
Abstain.
The advice from a city solicitor is not to vote, Councillor Logue.
Right, abstain.
Councillor Kieran Maguire. Okay. Councillor Philip McKinney. Thank you. Councillor Sean Mooney. Thank you.
Same.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, members, that's 7 for, 3 against, 1 abstention. So can I just take the opportunity to thank those who joined us this afternoon. Thanks to Christina for coming along and speaking, not only on your own behalf, but on behalf of your neighbours. I know you'll be disappointed with the result. And also to thank Matthew and Michael Graham in particular, and those who joined online as well. And on behalf of the committee, to wish you well. We do have another application, which I know you'll probably be sticking around for, because the next application, item number 7, is also in relation to this particular development. And on that note, I am going to ask Rosie to present LA 11 2020-0227/DCA. So Rosie, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Members, item 7 is LA 11 2020-0227 DCA for an application for conservation area consent for the removal of existing walls, gates and fencing on lands at 11, 11A and 12 Windsor Terrace, Infirmary Road, and adjacent to the rear of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 18, 20 and 22 Craigan Road. And the recommendation is to grant consent. This application is before you, members, is associated with the development just heard there in item 6. So again, this pink wash and this slide to the right just shows the area of the site that's within the conservation area, and it's the area where conservation area consent is required. This slide just shows the extent then of a plan view of the extent of the site within the conservation area. And this grey wash, if you can see it here just where the arrow is where the walls and fencing are to be demolished. This is a view then from Infirmary Road of the walls, the existing fencing, and then the security fencing to the rear and the gates. That's another view just again from Infirmary Road and showing the pedestrian access from Infirmary Road. This slide is just an indication of what it's proposed to replace those walls with. So it's just a fairly plain rendered wall, simple form of railings, pedestrian access both sides off Infirmary Road. And this is just an indicative plan from Infirmary Road of the entrance into the site. So there's existing walls that flank the existing entrance into the site, stone walls, which is proposed that these will be retained.
You okay, teachers? Now?
It's the wall looking towards 5 Windsor Terrace. And this plan just shows the landscape in detail. Sorry.
John Boyle went in yesterday too.
Alderman Thompson, I'm not sure you're aware of it, but your microphone's on there. Go ahead, Rosie.
This plan just shows the landscaping of the entrance to the site that's proposed. Officers considered the existing wall and fence detailing, including the fencing, makes no material contribution to the character and appearance of the area. So demolition of these is considered acceptable. And officers find that in respect of the proposed detailing, that it's less cluttered in appearance and it proposes a higher quality of design within the conservation area. So officers recommend the conservation area consent is granted for the demolition works, subject to the conditions set out in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosie. Obviously, related to the previous application. However, we have had some speakers indicate that they wish to speak, and again, we'll do it in the same order. Christina, if you're still online, I'm not sure if you wish to address this particular matter, but I certainly would invite you to do so if that's what you wish to do.
Thanks very much for the opportunity, but I wasn't aware of this application. So I don't feel that I'd be sufficiently prepared enough now to comment on it. I only had information, and as far as I know, my neighbours did as well, on the previous application reference only. So apologies about that.
No problem at all. Obviously, this application is related to the other application. That may well be where some of the confusion came in. But no, thanks for your honesty, Christina. In relation to that. And again, I'm just going to ask Mr. Graham if he's got anything he wishes to add here.
Apologies, Chair. Can you hear me okay, Chair?
Yes, go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, in very simple terms, not go through it, but you know, I can, if you're okay, I can deal with a couple of things. The wall and palisade fencing to the front of the site and Clan and conservation area make no material contribution to its character or appearance. And obviously we're seeking to remove those, and the detail that's going back in terms of the new walls and pillars will be rendered on top of black metal railings, and they're going to tie into the design of the overall scheme and provide, crucially, the enhancement to the Clarendon conservation area. And it's much simpler, higher quality and less cluttered, as Rosie has stated there earlier. And obviously the Planning Department and Historic Environment Division, our historic buildings, think it isn't appropriate, and we would hope that the elected members feel the same and that DCA can be granted. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Members, any questions for Mr. Graham? No. Okay. None online either. Any questions for the officers? Right, okay. Recommendation in front of you, members, is recommendations for approval. And if we're going to do that, I'm probably going to need a proposer and a seconder.
Chair, can I come in?
Oh, yes. Is that yourself, Dan?
Yes, Chair, it is.
Yes, go ahead.
I think it's just in relation to the comment from one of the speakers who wasn't a speaker, but I think for just in terms of the record, it'd be worth recording why people weren't notified about this application, maybe.
Mr. Kelly, I'll see if Rosie can give us some kind of an explanation. I'm not sure there is one.
Okay.
Apologies. Thank you, Chair. There's no requirement to neighbour notify on demolition consent or conservation area consent applications, but the application was advertised in the press. That is a requirement.
Okay, Councillor Kelly. I think that explains it. That explains it. Okay, so members, again, recommendation is for approval. If that's what you wish to do, then I would need a proposer and a seconder, etc. So, open the floor. Go ahead, Councillor Jackson.
Thanks, Chair. And I suppose just on the back of the previous decision, we all know that there's a tremendous housing need within our city and district, and this part of our city and district is no different. And there's opportunities such as this are few and far between, and particularly within conservation areas. Any applications need to be sympathetic to the existing character, and this one is designed in keeping. And I think there's quite a lot of information that and images that are provided as part of this pack to give us an indication of what the overall impact would be. And from my perspective, it's a positive impact. So on that basis, I am content to propose the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Proposals from Councillor Jackson. You seconding? Seconded by Councillor Mooney. Members, I'm just going to ask Maura to take us again through the formal vote.
Chair. Members, item 7, proposal accept officer's recommendation. Alderman Alan Breslin.
For.
Alderman Keith Kerrigan. He's gone. Alderman Drew Thompson. Keith. Oh, sorry, Keith.
He's online.
Apologies. I thought you'd gone. You'd left the room.
He's abstaining anyway.
Are you abstaining?
All right, sorry, Maura. You're all right.
Okay. Alderman Drew Thompson.
For Maura.
Councillor Jason Barr.
For.
Councillor Raymond Barr, as apologies. Councillor John Boyle.
For.
Okay. Angela Dobbins. Here. Councillor Paul Gallagher. Left. Councillor Christopher Jackson.
For.
Okay. Councillor Dan Kelly.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Patricia Logue. Councillor Patricia Logue. Councillor Kieran Maguire. Okay. Councillor Philip McKinney.
Sorry, for Maura.
Thank you. Thank you, Patricia. Councillor Philip McKinney.
For.
Councillor Sean Mooney. Yeah. Unanimous. Unanimous, Chair.
Okay, that's unanimous, members. Okay, just bear with me 2 minutes, members. I'm just looking at the clock, thinking, can we get one done and can we not? So just let's have a chat. Okay, members, I've made an executive decision. We've got a number of speakers on the next application, and technically we would probably have about 20 minutes left, and that's not going to be enough time to do the next one on the list. The next one on the list was number 11, which was the erection of a dwelling in a garage. So we're going to have to suspend the meeting until tomorrow. can I just thank those who patiently waited online, and all I can do is apologise, but we are again duty bound to go not terribly far past 4 hours at this point. That's the standing orders that council passed down to us. So,
Chairman,
who might this be?
Alan Breslin.
Alan, go ahead, Alan.
So, I want to put in an apology for tomorrow because I have a hospital appointment tomorrow evening.
Okay, that's grand. Thanks, Alderman Breslin, duly noted. So members, we will suspend for now and hopefully see everybody back same time, same place, 2 o'clock tomorrow. Thank you for your attention.
Right, thank you.